Hey, Prime members, you can listen to Crime and Sports early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the app today.
Rakuten is the smartest way to save money when you shop because you earn cash back at over 3,500 stores. Fashion, beauty, electronics, home essentials, travel, dining, concert tickets, and more. Your favorite stores like Lowe's, Levi's, and Nike pay Rakuten to send them shoppers. And Rakuten then passes on a part of that payment to its members as cash back. You're already shopping at your favorite stores. Why not save while you're doing it? It's a no-brainer. Membership is free and easy to sign up. Get the Rakuten app now and join the 17 million members who are already saving. Cashback rates change daily. See Rakuten.com for details. That's Rakuten. Your cashback really adds up.
In the depths of an Atlanta forest, a clash between activists and authorities ends in tragedy. I'm Matthew Scher, and on my new podcast, We Came to the Forest, we expose the hidden truths behind a shootout that left one activist dead and countless lives forever changed. Binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest ad-free on Wondery Plus.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Crime and Sports.
Yay!
Oh, yay indeed, Jimmy. Yay indeed. My name is James Pietragallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jimmie Whisman.
Thank you, folks, so much for joining us today. We're jacked today. We are. We're in a good mood. We're ready to roll, and we have some serious fun here today. This is just, in a man's own words for the most part, so much debauchery and violence and craziness. It's so much fun. We'll get to all that. First of all, shutupandgivememurder.com. Head over there right now. Tickets for live shows and especially the virtual live show, April 20th, 420 virtual live show.
Boy.
We got costumes. I have crazy, weird smoking apparatuses to freak Jimmie out and make him get super stoned.
Christ.
It's going to be so much fun, just like a regular live show, except much more stoned, and you're in your own house.
So much
gonna
more
be
personal.
So much fun. It's available for 2 weeks after the 20th, too, so you can get it anytime, and you can watch it 100 times. Do whatever you want with it. We can't wait. Shutupandgivememurder.com. And Patreon you also want. Patreon.com. /Crime in Sports is where you get all of that stuff. It's all your bonus material. Anybody $5 a month or above. You can either have 1 cup of coffee. It might not even be good. You could drive away and go, this isn't even that good of a cup of coffee. Or you can get a couple hundred bonus episodes you never heard of immediately upon subscription, and then new ones every other week. 1 Crime in Sports, 1 Small Town Murder. And how much of that do they get?
You get it all.
You get it all. Here we go. For this week for Crime and Sports, we're going to talk about the whole Ohtani gambling debacle.
Oh,
Because
shit.
They just said, oh, yeah, no, it's the interpreter. Don't worry about it. Yeah, oh, there he goes. Yeah, he's playing real well now. That is the quickest
I need to know
sweep.
so much more. Yeah.
They're like, oh, he's saving the league on a global basis, so don't bother with that. It wasn't like Pete Rose was in the league for 20 years already, and we were about to shuffle him out anyway. This is a totally different story, and other gambling incidents that are not Pete Rose also we're going to talk about. Some fun stuff from the 60s with some mafia stuff and some stuff like that. And then for Small Town Murder, this is going to be fun. We're going to dive down some conspiracy holes here. And we are going to talk about, was Charles Manson a CIA asset? Was this all done on purpose? Yeah. Okay, that's number 1. And then we're going to talk about also other CIA-related murder things that you wouldn't think of. So it's going to be fun stuff. Yeah, total conspiracy craziness we'll talk about there.
Can't wait.
Patreon.com /Crime in Sports is where you get all of that. And you get a shout out at the end of the regular show, this show as well. And Jimmie will mispronounce your name. That said, let's get to it with our guy of the week here. Let's do it. It's a Paisan this week.
Oh, yeah?
It's a beloved. If you're a Yankee fan, especially if you're like a New York Yankee fan, and especially if you're like an Italian New York Yankee fan, you love Joe Pepitone. You just love him.
Okay.
You know exactly what I'm talking about now, right?
Yeah.
Before the show, I said I got to stop myself from doing a JB Smoove impression every 12 seconds during this episode. And Jimmie said, what do you mean? And I go, you'll know as soon as I say his name. And you'll want to say Joe Pepitone up in this motherfucker because Larry David it was a whole episode about this Joe Pepitone jersey that he had. the number 25 Yankees jersey. It's fucking hilarious. So,
God damn it. JB Smoove is the luckiest man alive, too. I love him.
He's fucking hilarious.
So much. He's so great.
He's not lucky. He's funny.
No, I mean, he's lucky that he gets
landed the perfect spot.
Yes, he gets
and
to
Larry
be
David
on a
finding
show
him is perfect.
being himself. It's so great.
No,
It's
those
so
two are
amazing.
the best odd couple of all time on TV. Like when you talk about an odd couple, they're the oddest couple. Their conversations are great. It's very funny. So I've always, ever since his first episode, I was like, oh, this is magic with these two. These two are
And
magic.
it's so funny and genius that Larry recognized how great it is that he would have somebody like JB as his fucking odd couple.
Play off of him. It's perfect.
It's beautiful.
It couldn't be better.
Gorgeous.
So that whole first season he was on there with his family, it was great. Larry and the Blacks, the fucking the cards.
He just sticks around.
It's great. So Joseph Anthony Pepitone we're talking about here. Joe Pepitone, he's a classic old-time Yankee because when there's an Italian Yankee, it's a whole other level of love from the Italian fans. They go crazy. It's like it's hard to explain exactly how much they would prop somebody up of that community on a Yankee or even the Mets, but the Yankees especially. So Joe is born October 9th, 1940. Born and raised Brooklyn guy. We'll talk about. He's from Parks.
That right?
Grew up in Park Slope. Yeah, his book is amazing because it's just talking about growing up in the 40s and 50s in Brooklyn, and it's fucking amazing. It's just great. Wonderful stuff here. We'll talk all about him. A lot of this will come from the book called Joe, You Could Have Made Us Proud. That's the call. Joe, you could have made us proud. And that's it's his book that he wrote. Joe, you could have made us proud. And that's from an actual
supposed to be said.
From an actual line from the book that somebody said to him. And
really?
Oh yeah. It's pretty
that's so heartbreaking.
He pulls no punches in this book. That's the thing. Joe is one of these guys that will do anything for a laugh, and he always did that his whole life. And
oh boy.
He's beloved by other players because you could break his balls and he doesn't care, and you could play pranks on him and he cracks up laughing, and he plays pranks on you. He's just a fun, nice guy. You know,
best clubhouse guy.
Great clubhouse guy, and he's also he's used to abuse too, so he doesn't really care, as we'll talk about. His father's a psychopath. His father is Ignacio Pepitone. He goes by Willie though, William. Ignacio William. Yeah. Willie he goes by. Now, Willie is a tough son of a bitch that we'll talk about. He was a Gold Gloves boxer when he was a teenager, and we're talking like he's born in 1917, Brooklyn his whole life. So this is like one of these old-timey tough guys that talks like this, see? You know what I mean? Like, and he's just always punching people. He's like a Looney Tunes character. He did a bunch of stuff we'll talk about here. His mother is Angelina Teresa Pepitone, which is,
she's
of
beautiful.
course, my mom's Angela. There's Angelina. Perfect.
Yeah.
It's
she's lovely.
It's so perfect. So I'm going to read some stuff right from his book because it's in his own words, and it's just the easiest way to do this because he's the only one who could really set this up. He says, quote, "My father was a god in my eyes when I was growing up. His name was William Pepitone, and he was called Willie Pep after the fighter. But my father was bigger and a hell of a lot tougher than the former featherweight champion of the world. My father was 6'1" tall. He weighed about 190 pounds, and his muscular shoulders and chest sloped down to a 30-inch waist from working construction all his life."
Unbelievable.
He's
a
just
specimen.
He's just one of these guys that, he lifts heavy things, and he's got iron hands, and he just beats the shit out of people all the time, including
and a 30-inch waist. That's a skinny man at the waist.
Yeah. And
broad shoulders. He's got that V shit.
6'1", 190. Yeah, he's a strong guy and a tough guy. And we're talking, Joe was born in 1940. So, his dad was 23 at that time. And then his dad's like in his prime as Joe's growing up, really, all through his life, because his dad dies young, too. So he never really gets out of his prime. Yeah. He said that he had been a Golden Gloves fighter, not a boxer as a kid. He was a puncher who kept coming, and he did that all his life, too, the Rocky Marciano style.
Yeah.
Take two shots to give one. He was the toughest guy in my neighborhood. I saw him fight in the street at least 50 times. Imagine everybody out there seeing your dad be in 50 street fights. Imagine that. Just think about that. 50. One out of every 20 kids has a story about that time his dad got in a fight somewhere. Not 50 times in the street. That's crazy.
Your dad's a problem, right?
Kind of. He said he never lost. Never. And this was in a very tough neighborhood, Park Slope section of Brooklyn, a semi-slum that was populated almost entirely by Italian and Irish hard-noses. He had a furious temper, and when he wasn't spoiling the shit out of me, he was beating the shit out of me.
If we weren't smiling, we were screaming.
We were screaming.
No in between.
There is an introduction to Willie, because we're going to hear so many Willie stories, and it's wild, man. Joe talks about growing up in this time around here, too. Okay. He says, when you were born and raised in the slums, you don't know any different until you get away from them and live other places for a while. I remember my early years away from Brooklyn, looking back on the conditions there from the vantage point of a nice, plush residence and saying to myself, how the hell did I ever live there as a kid and grow up in some place?
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that think that.
In retrospect, when you see the shit, or in hindsight, I don't know, but when you're walking through it and you see how bad it is, A, it could be worse now, or B, it could be better now. And still, even if it's better now and you still think, how the fuck did we live here when it was worse than this?
He said, how did I ever manage to get through it? How did I ever get out of there? I think back on 3 friends who as kids wanted to be priests who instead got into the racket business, mob. This is the breeding ground for the mafia too. These are all Italian kids who are growing up where there's mafia stuff, and those are the only people around that really have money. Yeah. The guys driving big Cadillacs and wearing expensive clothes are the fucking racket guys, quote unquote, and guys running numbers and all that kind of shit. And that's who the kids look up to in the neighborhood. I mean, who else?
Yeah, because I don't want to eat like this. I don't want to live like this. You live like that. How do you live like that?
That looks awesome. Yeah, you see them with pretty ladies getting into nice cars. When you're 12 and you see that, you go, fuck, my dad comes home filthy and tired every night. Yeah, and then he fights in the street.
And then he beats the shit out of everybody, including me and my mom.
Within arm's reach. He said, into the racket business and ultimately into prison. It could have happened to any of us, and I realize in retrospect, we all had to work out our escapes in our own ways. Okay. This is the 50s Brooklyn version of you either sling and crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. It's one of those things, you know?
Sure.
That's what it is. So he said that he's got 2 younger brothers. Mm-hmm. One is they call him Jimmie, but his name's Vincent because that's an Italian thing, by the way.
Is it?
Yes. My stepmother's father is named Vincent, and everybody called him Jim his whole life.
What is that?
Yeah, like he was the mayor, and on his beacon and on his placard things, the campaign signs, it said Vincent Jim Fredericks.
What is that?
That wasn't even his last name too. He was Italian. They changed his last name to sound Irish. So. There you go. Anyway, Jimmie lived a block and a half away with his aunt. Okay. Which is weird. I don't understand that. Jimmie didn't grow up in the house, even though he's the parents' kid. And then he's also got a little brother named Billy. Okay. I guess the aunt was childless and wanted kids, and they just were like, we'll just give you Jimmie.
You could have this one.
You could just have him and raise him. It's a block and a half away. He's in and out, you know. But it's weird because he ends up talking about how Jimmie ends up being much different than him and his other brother. He says, and he thinks not spending his formative years around Willie as much made him a different guy.
Yeah, beneficial for him, sure.
His brother ended up being a very square guy, an NYPD detective, very responsible family man. He said he always had, his lawn was cut perfect and his money was saved, and he was like one of those kind of guys. He wasn't like a neighborhood knockaround kind of a guy at all. He said, quote, if my father was hard on people who crossed him, he was even harder on me, it often seemed. I have 2 brothers, Jimmie, who is a year and a half younger than I am, and Billy, who is 6 years younger than I am. So they just gave away the middle child.
What is that?
That's so weird. My father would tell me that I was responsible for them and that I had to look out for them all the time. Quote, they come home he'd tell me, you're going to get a beating, understand?
So, where were you at? You should have fixed this.
Wow. Anybody fucks with his brothers out in the street, Joe's either got to, make it right or his father's going to beat the shit out of him.
Right.
He said, so Jimmie would get into a fight and come home with a bloody nose, and my father would be waiting for me. I told you to look out for your brother, he'd yell, and without another word, no explanation, nothing, he'd beat the hell out of me with his fists, bloody my nose, leave bruises all over my face.
Punched him in the face.
That was he did. This wasn't like a smack on the ass. These were
my God.
He just beat his kid senseless. This was a different era,
And Jimmie, what's his dad's name? Willie's a fighter. He boxes.
That's what I mean. A lot of these old Italian guys, you go, they seem kind of dumb. When we had Joe the Animal Barboza and guys like that. But no, they've just had brain damage probably from getting the shit beaten out of them growing up.
Fighting
this is
all the time. Jesus.
How you're growing up here. He said little Billy would fall off his bike and come home with a scraped up knee, and my father would just wail the shit out of me. He said, quote, but it wasn't my fault. I wasn't even there. And he'd say, you should have been.
That's your problem. Yeah.
And he'd beat the shit out of him.
You just pointed out the issue.
Yeah. He said one time Billy hit a fire hydrant on his bike, flipped over the handlebars, smacked his head. I was there, Dad. I was right there. I just couldn't catch him. You should have caught him. Bang, crack. That's what he said.
Why didn't you?
He's got to walk his arms out over him, helicoptering the whole time, making sure he doesn't get hurt to save his own ass.
He's got to dive under these kids that just seem to be incredibly accident prone. Bicycles are no good for those boys.
No, well, every kid falls off. Every kid, every boy can think of or girl, I don't fucking know, can think of 3 good spills you've had as a kid on a bike or a skateboard or something. At least
one
3
of them.
good
I was 16, James.
Yeah, there you go.
I was damn near an adult, for Christ's sake.
You should have been having car accidents at that age. That was
well, thank God I wasn't.
That's your fault.
I probably would have died, for fuck's sake. Jesus.
You're supposed to be running into people and doing dumb shit. He also said, according to my mother, that's what my father wanted to do most as a kid, be a baseball player. All he wanted to do was play baseball. He wasn't allowed.
Okay.
He said, but my father's father was from Sicily, and he said baseball was a sissy's game, and if Willie played that, he'd beat the shit out of him good. So that's that. He said,
baseball. Why you want to kiss guys?
Yeah, baseball's for girls. I'll beat the shit out of you if you play that game. So that's where Willie came from. Baseball was considered too. Not even masculine enough. So,
what's the rest of the team doing while that one guy's at bat? Making out in the dugout? Is that what it is?
Fingering each other's assholes in the dugout? That's what they're doing. Those bats ain't dick-shaped for no reason, pal. Let me tell you something.
It's all shielded from the crowd, so we can't see what you guys are doing in there. We know.
They walk down that little tunnel. We know what happens. Guys are blowing each other in that tunnel. That's all it is. You're a bums.
Was the manager on the phone calling for somebody else to get a blowjob?
Yeah.
Is that what's happening?
Willie, quit getting a blowjob out there and come in here and pitch. So Willie is, in Willie's mind, he's like progressive as a dad. He's like a next generation type of dad. You know what I mean? At
least I'm not calling you gay slurs.
For playing baseball, which all the other kids are doing. Here's a beating story for you. There's going to be a ton of beatings, just stories of his father beating the shit out of him, which are hilarious. Italians, one thing I'll give our whole genre here of people, we have a knack for telling stories of us getting beaten or having horrible things happen to us. Tragedy, we know how to make that funny for some reason. We're very good at that.
Making light of child abuse.
It's terrible, funny stories about child abuse. The first stand-up comedy I ever saw live was Italian Grandma, and we would beg, tell us a beating story, Grandma, tell us a beating story. And she would sit down and tell us a terrible story about horrible child abuse that someone would have inflicted upon her back in Italy and we would roll on the floor laughing. My cousin Jesse and I on the floor. Just, oh my God, Jesus. My pow, boom, I fall down. She kicked me in the, and we're, because it was fucking hilarious. I don't know. Where do you get it? Why do you have a dark sense of humor? I don't know. That was my grandmother when I was 6 was telling me that shit, and I was laughing. So, that's where it comes from.
And you were crying, right? I was crying. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Oh, my God. What were you, 9, and your brothers were beating you with their fists because you didn't have the pasta ready on time? Holy shit. And that's a real story.
Yeah.
Her father would just tell a couple of her brothers to take her outside and beat the shit out of her. Like it was some... Take her outside, knock her around, and that was it. They take her outside, beat the shit out of her. She come back in. It's like that was normal back then.
The emotion that I feel when I see somebody getting hurt that doesn't deserve it.
Oh, it's terrible. Horrible. I don't like it at all. No.
The pit in my stomach. I don't like it at all.
It's bad, but if it happens to you, you can tell the story in a funny way. It's just how you. I guess it's how you get through bad shit.
The only time that pit's not there is when I see a fight, like a boxing match or some sort of whatever battle, whether it's UFC or whatever. But when I see somebody that I believe shouldn't be fighting in this, like that person's clearly overmatched you.
I don't like that either.
I don't. That doesn't hurt me. I enjoy that.
That
you signed up for this knowing that.
Up.
I knew you shouldn't have been there, and you didn't know how you deserve this beating.
A lot of times I blame, because whenever we talk about fighters, they have the tomato can guys, and it's like
that guy I feel bad for.
That's what I mean. Like the promoter knew they couldn't win. Did they go to him and go, "You're gonna go in there and get the shit kicked out of you, right?" Probably not.
But it's $30,000, so come on.
That's what I mean. Yeah, the beating stories though can be so fucking funny.
Oh,
really
God damn it!
They're goddamn hilarious. He says, I remember one Sunday when I was 8 years old going to my grandfather's with Willie. My mother had gone over earlier with my younger brothers and my dog. My grandfather kept telling me every time I'd go over there that he was going to kill the dog because it peed on his tomato plants out back and damaged them.
What?
That's the other thing. They grew up in a different time. Human life has very little value. You think animal life has value to these people?
Dog has a chance?
Everything you're getting, I'll eat that fucking thing. What are you doing? And that's how they are, honestly.
Wow.
Like my grandmother was the same way. My aunt had a cat and she was like, well, I'll kill that son of a bitch. I'll eat it. And blah, blah, blah. We're like, don't eat the cat. What are you talking about?
Dogs pee on things. That's what they do.
Wild. So they can find that funny. He said, one day I kill that dog, Joe. That's what he says, Italian accent. You can infer there. I cook him, which is exactly what I was here, too. That's a playbook, I think, from the old country.
He will be eaten.
Yep, he said, this day my dog wasn't there when I arrived. I got scared and went right to the oven. I opened the door and staring at me was a head with 2 shining eyes and a tongue hanging out like a dog, cooking. My dog, I screamed, bursting into tears. Look what Grandpa did to my dog. He started freaking out. I grabbed the head and yanked it out of the oven, but it burned my hands and I dropped it on the floor. He tried to save the dog.
You gonna mouth it?
He said, my grandfather came running from the living room. That's my Copazelle on the floor, he yelled. I started punching and kicking him. You killed my dog. He said, that's my Copazelle, sheephead. It's a sheephead. It's not a dog head.
The dog's in the bedroom, sleeping.
My father rushed in, saw me kicking my grandfather, and knocked me to the floor, yanked me up, and knocked me down again.
Oh, my God.
It was a sheep's head, one of my grandfather's favorite meals, eyes and all. That's the other thing. They eat crazy shit, these people from over there. My grandmother, whenever she'd have like a brother or sister over, there'd be a pile of chicken feet on the table, and they'd just eat them. Just feet. We're in America now.
You don't have to do that.
You're not hiding in a hole from the SS. Like, this is,
there's there's plenty of the better part of the chicken.
All of it. You can get any part you want. Please let me get you a different part to that chicken, Grandma. I swear to God, I'll go to the store. I'll buy it.
There's a much better part for you to be eating.
That's not even on the shelf. You have to ask the guy for that. And they're like, you're going to throw them out. But I guess if you want them. That's crazy.
We weren't even going to grind those into sausages. We were literally throwing them away.
I guess if you crazy immigrants want it, here you go. So, he said, then my mother, Angelina, who was called Anne, came in with my dog on a leash. She'd been walking it. Willie.
Some exercise.
Sorry. Willie, that's enough, she yelled at my father, who was still beating me. But she didn't step in to stop him. She was as afraid of Willie as anyone else, fearing he'd turn his terrible temper on her. He never pulled his punches, left me black and blue and bloody, particularly as I got older. My mother, who never raised a hand to me, could do nothing about it. Some of the blood that was spilled out of me by Willie was her fault. Jesus Christ.
Word.
She was always a very nervous person, and she had a hysterectomy when I was 10, had to live on tranquilizers after that.
Whoa.
Man, if I was 2 minutes late getting home at night, she would put a pillow on the windowsill and lean out looking for me. Oh, my God. Joey! Joe!
Where are you?
Joe, have you seen Joey? Where's my Joey?
Screaming down four stories.
God, fucking nightmare. It's so anything could happen on the streets in that neighborhood. If you stepped out of your area into another neighborhood, you'd get beaten up. So she had reason to worry, but the more she worried, the angrier my father got. I'd come home 5 minutes late, and Willie would punch the shit out of me.
Good Lord.
Mom's all nervous. When I look back, I don't know how my mother was able to get through it with my father and me. All the crap we brought down on her. My father was such a jealous person that my mother could never really relax and be comfortable and enjoy herself in any kind of social setting.
Oh, that's terrible.
He talks about even like her sister's husband, like Willie would come over. Why are you talking to him for? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. He's real jealous. Here's a story about a man who beat up Joe's uncle. And Joe's uncle owned the apartment building they lived in. Yeah. So he was all bloody, and Joe's uncle came to Willie for help and said, look what happened to me. Okay. So he ends up going to where this guy was that did this to him, Willie does. Mm-hmm. And this is from Joe's book here, quote, the guy turned to a bin behind the counter and handed him a length of pipe. How's this? Meaning Willie. Gave it to Willie. Right. Willie hefted it in his hand, staring at it, then closed his fingers around it. Yeah, he said, that's just right. Then bing, he hit the guy in the jaw. As the guy went down, Willie yelled. He made the guy give him the own weapon to beat him with. That's that's like dig your own grave type of shit. Get me a pipe. Pow, here you go. He said, Willie yelled, you beat up my brother-in-law? Get up, you bastard. Stupidly, the guy got up. Willie hit him again and busted his nose. He was lying on the floor bleeding, half conscious, when Willie tossed the piece of pipe on his chest. You're not worth a shit, but your pipe does the job.
Nice pipe. Thanks.
Nice pipe. He said he came outside and said, let's go, Louie. If that guy ever messes with you again, it'll be the last. And then he noticed me and said, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah.
This is like Tony Soprano walking in on his dad cutting the guy's finger off. Yeah, it's the same fucking thing. He came out. I was just walking by looking for a stickball game, Dad. That's what he said. You little wise ass. He raised his hand to me, then he lowered it with a smile. Come on, we're all going home. I already beat some ice cream. I just beat the shit out of somebody. Never mind. I'm feeling nice.
Pretty tired, yeah.
Pretty tired. While Willie took on everyone, even racket guys who could and did lay very heavy beatings or worse on people who gave them trouble. So he's even like he didn't even care. He's fighting mob guys. It wasn't long after the hardware store problem had been corrected that my father heard this guy called Villani was bad-mouthing someone in our family all over the neighborhood. So a random rumor of, quote, bad-mouthing of a relative around the neighborhood. Not even a specific said this to this person about that.
Where's the son of a bitches at? Just point him to me.
Wow. Villani owned a clothing store, but he was also large in the rackets. Willie went to see him at the store and got there just as the guy was rolling up his awning, closing for the day. Quote, what's this shit I hear you're saying about my family? Get lost, the guy said, pulling down the awning rod. Willie hit him on the point of the chin, and Villani lifted off his feet and did a back dive right through his plate glass window.
Wow.
Don't ever badmouth my family again, you bastard, Willie said.
Just words, and he blasted him through a window.
My family. No, maybe there had beef. I don't know. What business of Willie's? He left the guy lying among the broken glass in the window, trying to shake some light back into his head. Within hours, bad guys all over Brooklyn were out looking for my father. Luckily, the word got to Jimmie the Bug right away. Well, once Jimmie the Bug gets the word,
Who's
then
Jimmie
everything's...
the Bug?
Jimmie the Bug's a neighborhood guy. Jimmie the Bug lived in our building and was a good friend of our family. He was in the numbers business. Yeah, see? He was in a racket, see? So as soon as he heard what happened, he came right in to see my father. Look, Willie, he said, stay in this apartment. Don't go out until I talk to some people. I'll straighten this whole thing out. He did. It only took him a month of steady negotiations to keep Willie alive.
Willie had to stay home for a month?
Yeah, he had to stay home till I fix it, basically.
Jesus Christ.
He was hip-hop's biggest mogul, the man who redefined fame, fortune, and the music industry.
The first male rapper to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Sean Diddy Combs.
Diddy built an empire and lived a life most people only dream about.
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But just as quickly as his empire rose, it came crashing down.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
I was up. I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry.
Until you're wearing an orange jumpsuit, it's not real. Now it's real.
From his meteoric rise to his shocking fall from grace, from law and crime, this is the rise and fall of Diddy. Listen to the rise and fall of Diddy exclusively with Wondery Plus.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this White Zinfandel.
Well, good. Now put it down. We're going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles.
A big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud.
Sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit.
At the time, I was paranoid.
Threats.
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
And murder.
With a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Here's a story from what happens when you come in 3 minutes late from being out.
Yeah.
I rode off down the block on my new bike, met the guys, and we all went what they called ape shit. I let them have a couple of rides each. I had a couple. I got a brand new bike, and he went, and they were like, "Oh shit, Joey's got a new fucking ride. Let me take it for a spin."
Joey with this fucking
Joey. Oh, look at this fucking bike on Joey over here.
Joey Pepitone.
Hey, Joey Schwinny boy. Hey, it's all right. Joey Schwinneroni. Come over here for a minute. He said, I let them have a couple of rides each. I had a couple. Then I pedaled home. My father was waiting on the front stoop. He was looking at his watch. It was 3 minutes after 6. He's supposed to be home at 6.
6:03.
6:03. Get off that goddamn bike, you little bastard, he yelled.
Bastard feels like his go-to.
No, I love it. He then jumped down the steps, grabbed my shiny new bike, raised it over his head, and smashed it down the steps to the basement. The headlight flew off and all kinds of other pieces, but it wasn't enough. He leaped down the basement steps.
I'm going to get that bastard bike.
Kicked in the spokes, lifted the bike again, and smashed it against a wall. Just kept smashing it against the concrete wall until there was nothing left in his hands except twisted metal. He just destroyed his bike.
3 minutes.
Wow. He said I ran up to my room crying, thinking, 3 minutes late, 3 minutes. Yeah, that was his thoughts too.
180 seconds, for Christ's sake.
Oh, I was lying on the bed crying when he came in and beat me. It's not enough that
he beat him.
Lucky he didn't beat him with the bike. Wow. He said, but I didn't feel that beating. All I could think of was that mutilated bike. I'll never forget. The next day, he bought me a new bike.
He bought him another bike?
That's the thing. He says all the time, and this is what he says, usually right after he'd beaten me, my father would cool down and apologize to me, saying he was sorry and he didn't mean to hit me so hard. His father had a fucking crazy temper he couldn't control. He was a psychopath. He said almost every time he beat me, he'd come back in later and apologize. Finally, I told him, Dad, don't apologize to me. Just stop beating me. Or he said, at least make sure I deserve it. Make it something that I really did something on. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So that's so far. That's just to I'll give you a setup of what he's growing up in. This is Joe's life.
Does Joey P have a short temper? Why do I keep saying that?
He kind of does.
Why is that the word that I can't stop saying?
Not like this.
No?
Most of his stuff, if somebody does something, his first reaction's to laugh at shit. He's one of these guys that everything's funny. He'll make a joke. You know, he'll go, my big stupid nose. You know what I mean? Like he'd rather not deal with the fight. But later on, he'll have some fights. But it's usually like almost in a jokey way. Like everything with him is a joke. He's one of those. He's one of those like Rat Packy kind of guys where it's like everything's a giggle and an elbow and a little, one of those. He's not like so serious like these other guys. The old generation was a whole different thing.
And his dad may have grown up. He was born in 40, so his dad grew up through the fucking Depression. He knows what it's like.
His dad was born in 1917.
Yeah, he's seen that shit. Yeah.
And his father thought it was a sissy thing to play baseball. That was sissy. So I mean,
you got to be tough. Yeah,
it's a different life. So let's finally talk about a little bit of baseball. There's plenty of baseball, but there's more like pranks and dumb shit and sexual stuff we'll talk about.
What?
Yeah. So he said a maternal uncle that was named Red, he got Joe into baseball. But he said his lessons could be brutal. He said he started catching with me when I was 7 or 8. As I got older, 9 or 10, he'd throw harder and get angry when I missed one. Hey, you fucking bum. What are you doing, you little bastard? You missing the fucking ball over here?
Idiot.
I'm taking time out of my day to play fucking ball with this bum. The kid's a bum. I'm not even I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. He's a bum.
You know what I made per hour?
This is ridiculous.
How many hours did I throw away? Multiply that by the dollars. That's how much money this cost me.
You owe me. Now, the clock's running on the VIG, so it's 2.5 points, and I'll be here every Friday. You better have my fucking money. Huh? I'm 7. What?
Throw the ball.
He said if I missed easy ones, he'd smack me, and then Willie would smack him. Oh. So he'd smack the kid, and then Willie go, don't hit my kid, and smack him.
We don't hit.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
God, I love it so much. He talks about growing up in this neighborhood, which was not, it's a rough neighborhood.
Yeah.
He said the biggest problem for me growing up in this neighborhood was that you had to act like a tough guy to get by.
Right.
All the kids were tough, you know what I mean? Yeah. He said I had a very hard time getting that act together. He's a goofball, Joe. That's not his style, He said I was anything but tough. I was always very tall for my age and stickball bat skinny. I had short, wire, curly hair that gripped my head like a stocking mask and emphasized my beak-like nose and turn signal ears.
No.
He said I looked a great deal like a baby robin. So, yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
He's like, people fuck with him. He'd rather make a joke, but he can't because he's got to fight now and act like a tough guy.
It's a bad-looking man.
Yeah, oh yeah, he looks like he's a little guinea. I mean, he looks like a little guinea kid that's going to grow up to have a big nose and look like a fucking kid, and that's all. I mean,
like a scarecrow.
Yeah, that's what he got. He just happened to be skinny, which doesn't help. Real skinny isn't helpful with that look.
That's the worst.
At least if you got a couple pounds on you, you can, get some balance on that nose and ears. But he said, I was always scared as a kid. I was always being challenged physically because that's the way it was for everyone until you proved yourself. I didn't like to fight. I didn't like to fight simply because I was always getting my ass beat. I didn't like to do something where I got beat up every time. It's just something about it.
Yeah, well, if you get beat up at home, you're losing every fight at home. Mm-hmm. That's just that's a guarantee.
You're not going to beat Willie.
Yeah.
Grown men in the street can't beat Willie.
And then if you get in a fight and an option is losing and you know what losing feels like, you're not going to fight. You just don't want to.
You're like, oh, God, I'm going to get beat up again. But he could take a good beating anyway, so that's good.
Yeah, you can take it.
He said, I was always getting my ass beat. I mean consistently without ever any change in the outcome.
Yeah.
I just always lost. He said, not a good fighter. He said, I was quick on my feet and I dance around very skillfully for a while, but I always ended up on the ground with someone pounding me. Then I'd go home with bumps and bruises, and my father would enlarge them because I hadn't done better.
Right.
Would you get beat up? Get over here, you pussy, and then he'd beat him up too. Rather than teaching him how to fight, maybe. Hey, Joe, let me show you how to fight. No. You want to plant your foot and really get pushed off on your hip on that one. He said, get over here. I'm going to fucking blacken your other eye.
It doesn't feel good to lose a fight and then be challenged or told to go fight again and then lose that, too. I've been there. It's good.
It's not fun. But to go home and get beat up also by someone even tougher, it's like, I just lost to a child. This is not even a challenge for you.
And you're going to feel it swollen. It hurts so bad. It's good.
So bad. He said, I think this is why I became such a fast runner, because in baseball he was always known as a pretty quick guy. Mm-hmm. He said, quote, you want to fight, Pepitone, you skinny son of a bitch? Nope. Zoom. Sprint away. He said if Lemon, who's a friend of his, who was shorter and wider and 2 years older, was around and the challenger wasn't too big, he'd look out for me. If he thought he could take him, he'd help you. But otherwise, you're on your own.
If he was outmatched and outgunned, then I got to run.
Yeah. He was tough, and he also preferred taking a rap from a tougher guy to getting one from my father.
Oh, because he'd get beat up. But where were you?
Yeah. His father would say, who was with you? Lemon. Yeah. Okay, now I'm looking for Lemon. And he'd he'd literally go down the street, find Lemon, a child, and kick the shit out of him for not helping his Joey along. Yeah.
Child abusing someone else's kid.
Back then that was very normal. Very normal.
Why are you hitting my kid? He didn't defend my kid. Proceed.
Okay. All right, good. Then you'd hit him too. Back in
My arm's sore.
There's a scene on Mad Men when there's a birthday party, a kid's birthday party, and some kid knocks over a drink. And one of the neighbors grabs him and goes, "Hey, you knocked that over," and smacks him in the face. And the kid's father comes over and goes, "What happened?" And he goes, "He knocked this drink over and he's running around." And the father goes, "You want some more?" And the kid goes, "No." He goes, "You better apologize to Mr. So-and-so and clean that up." And he was like, "I'm sorry," to the stranger who just smacked him in the face.
Do I want some more? What?
Yeah.
I hope that's rhetorical.
You want some more?
Because
and those people weren't even
the answer.
They weren't even Italian. That's
right.
a whole.
This
is a whole separate.
People.
Yeah, this is a whole separate fucking thing going on here. So he said,
I've heard that so many times as a child. Do you want some more? Like, what kind of thing is that to say to a kid? You know what the answer is as an adult. Why would you ask that?
Because that's to show how ridiculous it is that you're complaining. The option is getting hit more or shutting the fuck up. Those are your two options. So which would you rather have? That's what it is. What do you want, more? No.
I'm willing.
And you sniffle. Yeah. That means shut up or you're going to get hit more.
I got some left in the tank.
That's a little bit. He said, but when Lemon wasn't around, it was strictly feet, do your thing. Mm-hmm. He said, I ran home and my mother saw I was bruised and bleeding. Mom, I said, I tried to hit him, but he had a stickball bat.
Oh, shit.
Quote, get a baseball bat and go get him, my mother said.
You know where it's at.
Jesus Christ. I got a baseball bat out of the closet, went back to the schoolyard, and ran right up to that Irish kid. He yanked the baseball bat out of my hands and beat the shit out of me with that.
I brought
Joe's not a fighter. He's just not a fighter.
Joey P. Feel like this is
you
not
son
for
of a
you.
bitch.
Hey,
what do you do that?
That wasn't a good enough beating. I brought this for you.
Here, hold on. I'd rather be beat with this. I don't want you to hurt your fists. You look like it hurt a little kicking me last time. I don't want you to mess your toes up. Why don't you go ahead and beat me with this? He said, I went home and told my mother, Mom, don't tell me to get a gun because he'll take that away from me and shoot me. Jesus Christ. This is enough already. He said, that was enough of that fighting shit for me. I lost that one twice. Maybe the next fight would be even worse. 5 in a row wasn't bad after all. Why push it? This is this kid's childhood.
All you got is a stickball bat, you pussy. Here, try this.
I so want a sitcom, like an HBO sitcom about Joe Pepitone's childhood. I want it so fucking bad.
Every day.
But it's funny also somehow because that's the tone of it. That's we can play. It's Sopranos thing, and Goodfellas, and there's a certain tone of violence can be funny, and I think somehow this child abuse show is going to fly in 2024 as very funny. I want this show. I would watch this show every week. I would watch it. I would watch it all the time. I'd binge it.
I want to see him and his mom just like if you give a mouse a cookie style with each different weapon, and then eventually he's just like, I'm not taking the gun, Mom.
Oh, yeah, so don't tell me to get a gun. We already escalated from fist to a bat. That's enough.
You're giving my ass an ass kicking every time you keep mouse a cookieing this kid.
This is a guy who had a long all-star baseball career. And the only baseball we've talked about is that his father wasn't allowed to play because it's a sissy sport. And when his uncle would play catch with him and he'd drop one, he'd get the shit beaten out of him for it. That's the only baseball we've talked about. His uncle threw him a ball, he dropped it and got smacked, and then his uncle got smacked by his father.
And then a kid beat him with a bat.
And then he got beat by a bat. Which happened at a baseball field. So I guess it's technically baseball related.
Baseball related.
Good Lord.
His mom, if you give him out a cookie, does ass kicking. That's incredible.
That's awesome. So from there, what do you do if you're young Joe? You got to run the streets. You got to be out with the other kids. You're always getting beat up. You got to join a gang. That's what you have to do.
Is that what Joe does?
That's what all the kids did back then. And they still do because it's a tough neighborhood. You're going to be fucking prey if you're not part of a group that'll stick up for you.
Sure.
You know, if you're in a tough spot. He said, in my neighborhood, you had to belong to a gang or you'd get your ass whipped every day.
Right.
You couldn't go to Prospect Park, to a church dance, to the roller rink, even to school if you weren't in a gang.
Even to school.
Even to school. They're looking for kids. Oh, there's a fucking sucker. I'm going to beat the shit out of him. That's what they did.
What, are you here to learn about James Madison? We're going to beat the shit out
pussy.
of you.
Get over here. You're not here to learn the rackets? What's wrong with you, kid? He said, I didn't much like gangs, but I did like protection, and I needed protection.
Indeed,
I did like not getting the shit beaten out of me.
Yeah.
He said, we had a gang of 20 to 25 guys for years, the Washington Avenue boys. All of a sudden, one day, Joe Fortunato, the leader, came over to me with a bunch of the other guys and said, Joe, we're going to have to initiate you into the gang.
Oh, God, this is the worst.
He said, what the hell do you mean initiate into the gang? I've been with you guys all my life. He's like, I've been fucking here the whole time. Initiate me into what?
All right.
What we did yesterday? We've been doing this every day. He said, the guy said, no, this is a new thing we're starting, Joe. Make it official. The older guys have to initiate the younger guys.
Starting with me? I've always started with the
Joe.
next guy.
No, Joe, it's you. Fuck me. Joey just fucking getting the shit beaten out of him all the time.
Why is it always me?
Oh, here we go again. And so he said, who initiated you guys? Like, let's chicken or the egg here. Let's find out what we're talking about. How'd you get in here?
I like he's going to ask questions his way out of this.
You got to be semi-smart if you're not going to be tough here. You know what I mean? He said, we initiated each other, said Fortunato, who was a couple of years older than me and looked like Muggs McGinnis of the East Side Kids. He wore an old fedora hat pushed up in the front just like Muggs in the movies. Joe, it won't be bad. It's just a little test for putting all the young guys through. You won't have any problem.
Okay.
What do I have to do? He says, we're just going to tie you to a tree in Prospect Park tonight for about 4 hours, and then we'll come back and set you free. Tie me to a tree.
Who's to say a transient doesn't go, oh, look.
Yeah, or anybody else, or a dog's going to pee on you, or who the hell knows what's going to happen.
Just some random pervert just loves tied up children.
Hey, look at that. It's going to climb up and be halfway up the tree, halfway up the tree, start fucking poor Joe's little face now.
Oh, look at this poor helpless child. Come here.
Oh, God. So he said, 4 hours? Me tied to a tree in Prospect Park for 4 hours at night? No way. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I'm not a part of this.
Fortunato and the other guys huddled for a minute, and then he said, okay, Joe, if you don't want to do that, there's another test you can do to be initiated. All you have to do is swim halfway across Park Lake.
How big is that?
Is this a swimming gang? Will there be much aquatic combat we're going to be committing? Why do I need to? This isn't the Navy SEALs. Why do I have to swim? What are we talking about?
And who's to say? Where's the fucking line? What if I get all the way out there, swim back, and then you guys go, that wasn't halfway.
Keep going. Well, he said fucking halfway. Then what do I do when I'm out in the middle? How do I get back? You guys are nuts. I'm not doing any of this shit, he says. He said, so they huddled up again and said, Joe, you want to be in the gang or don't you here? He goes, yeah, I want to be in the fucking gang. They said, all right, we'll come up with something else. So they came up with all the guys, all hocked loogies into a glass and made him drink it through a straw.
Jesus.
That he did. I can't. I'm not going to read it word for word because it's really gross. He's like, you guys are going to make me. He's talking about like I took a sip and you guys are making me eat lungers. You guys are disgusting. But he did it and he got into the gang.
I'd rather
be tied to the tree.
I'll cut my asshole out before I do this. No,
I'll swim. It's nice out. What is it, June?
I'll swim to a tree that you guys tie me to for 4 hours before I do that. That's crazy.
If someone said swim out to the middle of that lake and back, or you'll have to drink a glass of loogies, I will swim so far and I'll beat Michael Phelps to the end and back. I swear to God, I will beat his fucking ass. I'm not drinking that. I love
Jesus.
Joe, you want to be in the gang or not? I love that. What are we doing here?
That means somebody huddled and then goes, he doesn't even want to be in the gang. And somebody's like,
I don't want to do this either. Yeah, I don't think so.
You guys don't think he wants to be in? I'll get clarification. Joey, you want to be in this or not?
You want to be in this or not? What's going on? So let's talk about sexual experiences growing up in the neighborhood here. And there's several. A lot of them are with older ladies. Some of them are with younger. There's one lady named Lucy that we'll talk about later that he had there's this lady named Lucy, and him and his friend saw Lucy coming out of a bar with a guy who wasn't her husband. Oh. So
leverage.
His friend had an idea of maybe we can get her to jerk us off if we fucking tell her that.
If we don't tell her husband.
If we threaten to tell her husband.
She got laid. Now she's going to have to jerk off some children.
2 12-year-olds now at the same time. All right, you guys almost done. So they go over, they knock on her door. They go, hey, Lucy, we saw you with this guy. And she said, yeah, what do you want to make of it? She's a tough Brooklyn lady. And they said, well, You wouldn't want your husband to find out. And she said, well, what do you want to keep quiet?
Yeah.
And his friend, chickened out and said, give us a kiss. Come on, how about a kiss?
Yeah.
And his friend maybe thought he could take it further. So she ended up giving his friend a kiss and grabbing his cock real quick and then shoving them out the door, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, word got around that something happened here and that they knew of something and they were trying to, blackmail her. Right. So the guy's husband, the lady Lucy's husband, got mad and came and smacked Joe around as a kid. Said, you guys doing blah, blah, blah. Make him wanting my wife to do this. Then Willie found out that this guy smacked Joe around, so Willie went and beat the guy half to death for beating up Joe.
Right.
So that's what ended up. That's how one let's try to get a kiss ended up with one guy in a pile of fucking of bile on the ground.
And Joey fucking Lucy every day.
And Joey trying to fuck Lucy. Well, here's another girl named Pat. Here we go. I'll read this. When I was about 12, I had finally started to dribble a bit when I jerked off.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Joey.
He talked about his friend Lemon trying to teach him how to jerk off, and he was like, how come I can't get nothing to come out? And he's like, I don't know, wait a while. Maybe it'll come out, eventually. Keep trying. So he said a few months later, it started working. And he was like, come on. You got to break it in. That's why, There's a break-in period. You got to give it a couple dozen jerks before anything comes out. You got to prime it.
Imagine living in a city like that, like the New York in the 40s and 50s, when everybody's so close together. You got to talk about your business together. You know what I mean? And the kids talk about things. And
there's barely any TV.
Do you ever have that conversation with a friend ever?
Yeah, no. Well, there's barely any TV. The magazines are like behind a thing somewhere. You can't get to those. There's no way to know anything. There's no way to get any sexual information except for the kid that's 2 years older than you in the neighborhood who barely knows more than you do, but says they know.
I never had anybody say, I learned something cool. You know what I mean?
This vacation thing? Yeah.
Nobody ever said that to me.
I remember kids bragging about, quote unquote, bragging about their masturbation as a kid, being 12, 13.
But not like have you ever? Nobody ever asked.
I was jerking off the other night and I figured out if I do this and that, it's much better. Yeah, I remember that, giving tips. I remember jerk off tips from friends, and I'm like, that's terrific. Thank you. You never got a jerk off tip from a buddy?
I've gotten jerk off tips, but that was because we were old enough. They knew everybody was jerking off.
Yeah, we weren't jerking off at the time, but they were just we're out playing baseball or something and playing catch, and they're like, let me tell you about a good stroke I learned.
Wasn't just a bunch of dudes standing around tugging going, try this, look at this.
Wasn't a circle jerk off. You watching what I'm doing here? You watching my technique or what?
Now you try it. Let me see. Yeah, that's how you do it. That's it right there.
I don't know. Your form's a little off.
Isn't that great?
Put your pinky out. Make it classy. All right, better. Good.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Good,
no,
right?
but I jerked off without thank fuck, man. That is so creepy. A kid saying, how come mine doesn't work?
Yeah, how come it's not working? You told me something. You told me stuff's supposed to come out, he said. He goes, well, maybe you're not ready to yet. I don't know. He said, wait a while. Maybe it'll come out. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a doctor. What am I, a fucking doctor over here?
What a fucking creepy conversation.
He said Lemon had what we called the hots for a girl named Pat with great big breasts and a saucy mouth. Okay.
Sounds like he likes her.
He likes her. Lemon was always fooling around with her. I'm going to get you. Yeah, she'd say. It might be fun. One day, he and I were coming out of the Itch, which is
it's a terrible name for anything.
It better not be a singles bar. They're 12. I mean, God,
yeah.
I think it's a store. And he spotted Pat leaving in front of us. Hey, he said to me, my mom's not home. I'm going to ask Pat to come over to my house. I bet we get a hand job. That's what his friend said. That's Lemon.
Yeah.
We were always talking about getting a girl to give us a hand job back then. we didn't know how to fuck, so it was, that's what he said. What are you gonna do? Pat said sure, she'd go along with us to Lemon's apartment. Lemon's eyes got all watery as if he couldn't wait. We went into the hall in his building, and Lemon couldn't wait. He reached over and put one of Pat's hands on his dick and the other on mine. She smiled and started rubbing and squeezing.
She's skiing. She's rubbing
both
into
of
this.
Them? Yeah, she's into this.
She's going to jerk off 2 kids.
What horrible childhood did she have? She's fucking 14 or so. Hey, Lemon, don't you think we better go upstairs? I said. Someone might see us. Yeah. We hadn't even closed the door to his apartment when Lemon was unbuttoning the back of Pat's blouse. She finished undressing herself and sat back on the sofa, smiling at our expressions, which were naturally bug-eyed gape. Holy shit, a naked girl.
Look at this.
What tits! Exclamation point, he said. He was like 40 when he wrote this. What tits on this broad? Let me tell you something. He said, I looked down at her thing, the first I'd seen with hair, and I thought, wow, is that ugly? He just saw a big muff, and he was like, oh, what the fuck's going on down there?
Wow, is that ugly?
No part of me is going near that. I'd get a disease or something.
Is that a raccoon? What is that?
Lemon was anything but put off and moved toward the sofa. Then we heard clomp, clomp, clomp on the stairs. Oh, Christ, he said, my mother's coming.
Oh, Jesus.
He ran over and locked the door and scooped up Pat's clothes and threw them under the sofa, grabbed Pat's arm and said, come on, quick, out on the fire escape.
What? She's naked.
He's pushing a nude child onto the fire escape. Hold on, stay out here naked. Your clothes are under the sofa.
Take you and that wild squirrel you got out of this bucket.
Jesus Christ. She said, are you crazy? I can't go out there like this. Lemon, why the hell have you locked this door? His mother yelled, knocking very hard. Be right there, Ma.
I'm coming.
He yelled, shoving Pat toward the window. Get out.
Get out. You're going to get me in trouble.
This is just ridiculous. I took her other arm and helped her up on the sill. What a gentleman. That's courtly of you.
Madame.
Oh, my God. That's amazing. Lemon, what the hell are you doing? His mother kicked the door. Open this door. Hurry, get out there, Lemon whispered. People will see me, Pat whispered as we pushed her out on the fire escape. It's better than getting killed by my mom, you and me, Lemon said as he slammed the window.
You want to die today, or you want to get your ass seen by strangers?
Yeah. You want people to see your giant bush, or are you going to fucking die today? Which one?
Don't worry, you got
with
great
a rolling
tits.
Pin. Yeah. Everyone's going to be very impressed. Don't you worry, sweetheart.
He said, that ugly thing right there.
Oh, Lemon, open this goddamn door right now. That's the mother. Lemon raced to the door and unsnapped the bolt. His mother barged in, a large bag of groceries in her arms, and almost knocked over Lemon. She screamed at him for 5 minutes and then went into the kitchen. We looked out the window. One of Pat's eyes was peering in around the frame. And water was streaming down her face. It was pouring outside. A cloudburst. They put her out and it started raining immediately. She's like,
Ben Stiller.
They're like, well, I guess it could be worse. It could be raining. And then, it's the old cartoon joke. Yeah. She was out there for over 45 minutes, naked in the rain. Lemon and I sitting there whistling, talking about nothing before his mother said she was going upstairs to a neighbor's for a minute. And don't you lock this door, you two. We opened the window and Pat poured in, her hair plastered to her head, the water puddling off her on the floor. Lemon went for a towel, but Pat was half dressed when he got back. Shove that, she said, the towel.
Right up your ass.
Putting on the rest of the clothes and rushing out the door. Next time, she yelled as she left, you guys can go fuck yourselves.
Go fuck each other.
Go fuck each other. So there is like one of Joe's first sexual experiences.
It's terrible.
He's scared of a vagina and some poor wet teenage girl had to sit out on a fire escape for 45 minutes. That's horrible.
Yeah, a girl who probably has lived through enough sexual trauma just got more.
Oh, yeah. No, if a girl is 14, she's like, I'm going to jerk 2 guys off. She's been through some stuff already, without a doubt. She didn't just, especially back then, it's not like she came upon porn on the internet and was like, this is artistic. I want to do that. This is... Somebody gave her ideas here. So, in a bad way, probably.
Yeah.
So he's hanging out with his friends here, doing his thing. He talks about how they would fight another gang. Okay. And this is what my friends and I used to do for fun for some reason. We'd break off into 2 teams and get as much fireworks as we could and shoot them at each other.
Yeah.
So you'd shoot, you throw packs of firecrackers and bottle rockets were good.
Yeah.
And
Snap the stick off those motherfuckers.
Roman candles, the equalizer. That was like, oh shit, everybody dive. That's someone breaking out the cannon.
Shots, you guys.
Yeah. And the M80 sticks were outlawed. You couldn't have the Roman candles that exploded because people would die. So
really?
Yeah, we outlawed those as far as in the battles. You couldn't do that at all.
Oh, Jesus, fires an M80?
It's a Roman candle, and when it hits something or, gets up to its whatever, bow, it's got an M80 and it explodes.
Yeah.
So it's very, very dangerous.
Jesus Christ.
It's a good one, too, a good explosion.
Yeah.
He said, we scraped together $50 or over $50, and one of the guys got his uncle and a couple of other adults to drive him to the fireworks store. Then we challenged the guys who'd ripped us off to come into our neighborhood. Jesus. We caught a couple of them alone, kicked their asses, and dared them to come back with all their guys. They did, and we were ready. We had guys on the roofs with cherry bombs that you lit and torpedoes that exploded on impact. They fucking ambushed
them down
them
at the road, and they would just explode down there.
They would explode all on them, yeah. He said we also had filled garbage cans with the loose gravel that covered the tar on the roofs.
Holy shit.
We had guys in the alleys on the street with Roman candles, and we posted one guy on the roof of the building where our territory began 2 blocks away, who, as soon as he saw them coming, fired a Roman candle signal to us. It was like war. And then they just...
Wow.
He said, when they marched down the street where we were waiting, we threw down cherry bombs, torpedoes, and gravel. Our guys in the alleys jumped out and fired Roman candles at them from 20 yards away. They hit a couple of the guys right in the chest, and their shirts caught on fire.
Yeah, that.
That's what'll happen. Especially back then, you could make it out of napalm, for Christ's sake. Back then, a shirt, and it was fine to do it when in the 50s. There was no outlawing chemicals or anything like that. He said shoes were blown off, pieces of fingers. You never saw anything like that.
Pieces of fingers were lost.
Oh yeah. He said it scared the shit out of me and repelled me when I saw those guys running with their shirts on fire. Well, that's good. It's a good thought. But I had to be a part of it and had to act tough like I didn't give a shit. If you didn't throw your bombs or fire your Roman candles at the enemy, another guy in your gang would see you and tell everybody, and you'd be ostracized.
Uh-huh.
It was a wild, crazy scene. I heard that one guy was blinded in one eye. I know we destroyed them. They dared us to come into their neighborhood for a rematch, and we told them to fuck off. We said, you guys want to get even, come on back. And those stupid bastards did, and it was just as bad the second time.
Behind the closed doors of government offices and military compounds, there are hidden stories and buried secrets from the darkest corners of history. From covert experiments pushing the boundaries of science to operations so secretive they were barely whispered about. Each week, on Redacted, Declassified Mysteries, we pull back the curtain on these hidden histories. 100% true and verifiable stories that expose the shadowy underbelly of power. Consider Operation Paperclip, where former Nazi scientists were brought to America after World War II, not as prisoners, but as assets to advance U.S. intelligence during the Cold War. These aren't just old conspiracy theories. They're thoroughly investigated accounts that reveal the uncomfortable truths still shaping our world today. The stories are real. The secrets are shocking. Follow Redacted, Declassified Mysteries on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Redacted early and ad-free right now on Wondery Plus.
Have you ever gotten a message out of the blue? Maybe you ignore them. Or maybe you end up in conversation. Maybe they tell you about an amazing offer. I can really show you how to make some money. And maybe that gets you into a lot of trouble. But this isn't a story about people like you, the people receiving these messages. This is a story about the people behind the messages, on the other end of the line. Thousands of them, working in a microcity built for scammers. From Wondery, the makers of Dr. Death and Kill List, comes Scam Factory, a new series about survival at the expense of others. Follow Scam Factory on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Scam Factory early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this white Zinfandel.
Well, good. Now put it down. We're going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles.
A big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud.
Sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit.
At the time, I was paranoid.
Threats.
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
And murder.
With a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Okay.
So that's what he's talking about. Here's a story about getting into a rumble with the boys and Willie showing up because he heard that Joe was fighting around in the streets here.
Oh.
He said
and he knows that Joe doesn't fight back, so I don't need my kid losing out there and ruining my reputation.
Well, and also he was pissed that people were going to be punching Joe other than him.
There's that.
I punched Joe, not you.
You don't get to hit my kid. I hit my kid.
So they were in a restaurant and this happened, and there's a scuffle around the bathroom here. Yeah. And he said that all of a sudden the door opened and boom, it was Willie. And he said, quote, Jesus Christ, it was my father who told me how to stay out of gang fights or he'd kill me.
Yeah.
I don't know where he is, my friend Okie said. I heard a scuffling sound and found out later that Willie had grabbed my friend by the front of his shirt. If you don't tell me where Joe is, I'm going to punch you right in the goddamn face, you little bastard, my father said. He's in the bathroom, my friend yelled. In the bathroom. I'm not taking a Willie ass kicking for you, Joe.
You said bastard. I know that's the key word before somebody gets their fucking face caved in.
Oh, bastard. He's got a fist made. He's about to punch you.
Ready to go.
So Joe is hiding in the bathroom from his father now.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I turned and put the little hook thing through the eye on the door. In other words, he put the little door lock on it. That'll keep him away.
This is the anti-Willie right here.
Like, he's not going to kick that off the fucking hinges. That's amazing. He said, and stopped sucking in air and stopped breathing entirely. He just like,
I'm ready to die in here.
He's like, I don't want him to hear me. Maybe he'll listen, not hear me and go away. He said, I wrapped my hands around the knob and braced my feet on the floor, leaning backwards. He's holding.
Oh, God.
The next thing I knew, I was flying out of the bathroom, sailing past my father, who had yanked the door so hard he'd ripped the hook out of the door and onto the floor. He just tore the whole thing off the hinges. He grabbed me by the back of my T-shirt and twisted as he lifted me up. The neckband was cutting into my neck, choking me.
Yeah,
He's just hanging him by his shirt. My father pushed me toward the front door like that, where he stopped by my friend Okie and stuck a fist in his face. And you're tomorrow, you son of a bitch Irish bastard, he said.
You're tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be back for you. This is your friend, and you're supposed to watch out for your friends. Look,
you blew it.
You blew it. He pointed at my nose, which was bleeding again, the blood trickling down my cheek. You're dead when I catch you tomorrow, Willie told him. Wow. He shoved me outside where my Uncle Tony was sitting in a car with the door open at the curb. My father spun me around and hit me a shot in the jaw that knocked me right into the car. Uncle Tony drove us around to our building, and the instant we got there, my father threw me out onto the curb. I scrambled to my feet and headed up the stairs as fast as I could. My father was right behind me, wrapping me all the way. We had an old Bendix washing machine with a little window in the front sitting at the top of the stairs. I stumbled on the last step. When I got up, my father punched me in the back of the head as hard as he could. That's nice. He's a child.
Why did he bring the washing machine into it?
Well, you'll see. I was half conscious when my head smashed through the Bendix window, shattering it, but somehow not cutting me. His father put his head through a window.
On the washing machine. That shit's thick.
That's thick. Oh, yeah, that's thick glass. That's not just a pane like a front window. That was the end of my gang fights. I swore that night as I cried myself to sleep that I'd never get into another gang war. Never. And I didn't. When the next one came up, I told the guys what had happened to me in the last one and said, no thanks, it wasn't worth it.
Look, we won that battle, but I lost the war.
I lost the war. Yeah, he said, I gotten destroyed in a gang fight in Prospect Park, then gotten double destroyed at home. My father taught me some hard lessons, but this one paid off for me. Hell, I'd been birthed with a big enough nose. So
don't make it
there you go. That's so far, no, we're not ending it there, but that's so far what he's doing. Now let's talk a little bit about baseball, of how he got into playing some baseball.
Yeah, how the fuck?
And we haven't talked about that because chronologically it hasn't happened yet in his life.
Yeah.
This is all the stuff that happened leading up to baseball.
Just a lot of abuse and
a lot of abuse. But the thing you would think, though, back then is this is a way out. I get out of here. Yeah. Baseball, you play somewhere else. You know, right. I'm not playing for Park Slope, so I'm going to be out of here somewhere.
Right.
He said when my brother Jimmie was about 12 and a half, he started playing baseball with a team in the neighborhood. And he came home after the first practice with a nice uniform. I'd never played baseball. He played stickball all the time, but never played baseball. And I asked Jimmie if I could try out. He said he'd see. The next day, he told me the team could only have one 14-year-old player on it, and they'd have to vote me in or out. So you got to go try out. A lot of them knew how I could hit a Spalding, which is the bouncy fucking stickball ball. Mm-hmm. I started the next game at the Madison High School field, and there happened to be a bird dog for the Yankee scout in the stands, a guy called John King. These are people who would scout literally. Eighth grade kids looking for kids who, could pick it up. There's no video back then that you could send. And
right.
People couldn't just put up a YouTube channel with their kid hitting 400-foot homers. It didn't work really back then.
Guy wandering around looking at children for prospects.
Yeah. He said a bird dog tips off a scout on a prospect, and John King was at the field to watch the second game that afternoon between 16 and 17-year-olds. But he got there early and saw me hit 3 home runs out of the ballpark.
What?
Yeah, Joe's got good pop. He always did. After the game, he came down to talk to the tall, skinny left-handed hitter who'd driven 3 balls over the fence. He started showing up at just about every game I played after that, a rumpled man in a cap sitting there watching me. And he said, John King, the bird dog for the Yankee scout, became like a second father to me. He looked after me, helped me tremendously in a nice, patient way. He gave me all kinds of advice that improved me as a ball player every year. That first season, he taught me how to run better, stay up on my toes, and how on throws from the outfield to keep the ball low by releasing it with a downward snap. You want a line drive throw from the outfield. A big rainbow throw takes too long. He was always working with me. John King also became very close to my mother and father. Well, his father didn't beat the shit out of him. It's the first person in the story his father hasn't beaten.
Right.
That's wild. Yeah. He said, we all respected and trusted him. Too much, as it turned out. When I was 15 in my second season of playing baseball, he had me sign an agreement which gave him exclusive rights to represent me and act as my agent.
Uh-oh.
He didn't know, or Joe didn't know, I mean. He would receive something like 15% of everything I earned until I was about 44 years old. It was just a career-long managerial.
An 18-year fucking contract?
Shit, 20-year, 30-year contract. He's only 15.
Oh, right.
Wow.
Wait,
my mother and father...
Yeah.
Yeah, he's only 15 at the time. Not knowing any better, not realizing the ramifications of this contract, signed it too. It seemed like a fine arrangement then. After all, John King was going to help me become a major league ball player eventually.
Wow.
Yeah. He said, I batted about 600 in high school ball in 1957, and a dozen other scouts started coming to see me play. Then I tried out for one of the best semi-pro teams in Brooklyn, Nathan's Famous Hot Dogs, and made it.
Really?
There's a ton of lots of semi-pro and minor league teams out there. Just people love to go out and watch baseball. Huh? Oh, yeah. There was tons of teams. There was Nathan's played in 5 different leagues, about 100 games a season. That's a lot.
Jesus.
That's not like a 20-game season.
That's half a season.
Yeah, that's a lot. More than that. The Nathan's players ranged in age from 20 to 25, and all of them had some minor league experience and received a little pay for playing. I couldn't take any money because I wanted to play another year of high school ball, but I didn't care about the money. All I cared about was playing. He said, I batted .390 with Nathan's.
Wow.
I was proud as hell. My friends were proud of me. Skinny Joe Pep was a baseball star. He knocked the shit out of that ball. John King said I was going to earn myself a nice bonus, and that with 13 bird dogs or scouts constantly in the stands at my games, there would be terrific competition among them to sign me, which would push the numbers up. Yeah. Somebody said I'd get $25,000, which back then is like...
That's crazy money.
That's more than $250,000 now. That's so much money. And another said $35,000, and another said $45,000. I couldn't believe $25,000. I couldn't imagine just how much money that was. I knew my father, breaking his ass on construction, brought home in a good year, working a bunch of Sundays and a lot of overtime, about $7,000 a year.
And they can live in the city.
So Willie, though, one thing Willie is very supportive about, or with Joe, with is baseball. Willie is all about Joe.
Yeah.
He goes to every game he fucking can. Really? He's at all the games. He's constantly fighting with people in the stands.
Oh, he's that dad?
Oh, he's just that guy. He's going
Wow.
to, even if his kid wasn't playing, he'd be fighting people in the stands. But put his kid in the fucking game, forget about it. So, one time when he actually fought an entire baseball team, as we'll talk about.
Okay.
Quote, I remember we played an all-black team called the Vikings at their field on Myrtle Avenue one day. I was playing first, and there was a very close play. I stretched as far as I could with my foot on the inside edge of the bag, just my cleats and the sole of my shoe touching. This big black guy came down the line and purposely jumped on my foot, which was done a lot back then. That was just what people did. The spike went through my shoe and almost chopped off my toe. Those are the real spikes. They were just like a fucking
steel,
piece of steel that
fucking
came out.
Shank that came out of your foot.
Yeah, and they were very, very big. So he said, I screamed and fell back on the ground holding my foot. The blood was running out of the gash in my shoe.
Holy.
Hey, you, I heard someone yell.
Oh.
Jesus, he knows who that is. We know that voice. Is the word bastard far behind?
No, it's not.
I don't think it is. I heard someone yell. I looked up and saw Willie running onto the field. Oh, no.
Oh, shit. You've done it now, sir.
He met the guy who'd spiked me as he trotted across the infield toward his dugout. Willie didn't say another word. He just hit that guy and knocked him out with one punch. He's also a young man who's didn't know he was in a fight also.
Right.
Jesus. The Vikings leaped out of their dugout. Yeah, some fan just came out of the field and started punching players. Willie set his feet and motioned them on. He said, come on.
Wave to him. Let's go.
Let's go with the baseball team. Willie set his feet and motioned them on. Unfortunately for the first three guys, they came one behind the other. My father flattened each of them with a single punch. Bang, bang, bang. They went down like 10 pins.
If you see you're in a dugout and one of your team members just gets blindsided and three of your teammates go get flattened, are you even following? No chance.
I'm going to say I'm going to go get the really big bat I keep back in the clubhouse. I'll be back later. I'm going to go.
How did the first
down the hallway?
How did those three that come out not grab one? They're leaning right there.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of honor. I think he doesn't have a bat, so we're going to go out and fight him like head up, I think. We're a whole team. We can beat, what is this, one fucking guinea coming out of the stands? We can beat this guy, right?
He just flattened that guy. That guy had a reason to be scared, too. He knew what he did.
Yeah, he knew somebody was pissed at him, but this is fucking crazy.
I'm not following it. How many more came?
So far, he's 4-0 just on the field right now.
Yeah.
He said none of them got up. I just lay there watching as half the men in the stands poured onto the field.
Oh,
now it's a riot. My teammates, the Vikings and scores of fans ran around slugging one another.
Oh, my God. Well, he's bleeding.
God. He's bleeding. Yeah, he said, I finally got up and limped toward the stands. He's not even involved in it. He's the whole thing. He's not even involved in the brawl.
Didn't throw a punch.
No. He said, I saw the scouts all leaving, and I thought, I wonder what they think of this shit. This can't be good. Is my father driving them away from me? The game was suspended. Because... everybody had to nurse their wounds. Here's a time when Willie heard a guy in the stands call Joe overrated.
Uh-oh.
Didn't say he's an asshole, a son of a bitch, little bit. He's overrated, that player. Okay. He said that this had happened earlier in the game on a play where he struck out on an at-bat. So this really pissed him off, hearing this guy yell at him, call him overrated. So the next time he got up, he hit a home run. And he said it was a hell of a shot. Good home run. As I trotted home, I saw my father, who'd been sitting up behind this guy, walk down in front of him. Quote, He's overrated, huh, big mouth? My father shouted into the guy's face. That ball went over 350 feet, you asshole.
You fucking moron.
The guy stood up and my father knocked him down. He stood up again and my father knocked him out. Said it reached the point where all the bird dogs and scouts were saying, Joe Pepitone's old man is going to ruin that kid.
Yeah, no kidding.
Word got around. Jesus Christ, you can't bring the guy to a game. John King kept hearing this, and he knew they had a point, knew it was getting harder and harder for me with my father at the games.
Right.
Now, there's an incident that finally stopped us, because his father's still beating the shit out of him at this point.
Yeah.
And finally, they get in this big argument. Basically, a scout told Willie that, you're
detrimental.
fucking up.
Yeah.
So he got mad. I guess he ended up so Joe got in a fight with his father, and he told him he hated his father. He said, I hate you. You're fucking this all up for me.
Yeah.
Willie picked up a big, thick glass ashtray. You know those big ones that old people had in their living rooms? It's like
I've got one
ashtray
that holds my fucking keys because I know it's so sturdy.
It's sturdy. You could drop it. It won't break. It's very sturdy. Well, he picked this thing up, Willie, and threw it across the room at Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Missed Joe with it, but it hit a closet door, and he said it, quote, it smashed into 100 pieces and a dozen shards ricocheted into my eyes and face.
The door or the ashtray? Because those things will splinter a door.
Glass all in his face.
Oh, boy.
Exploded in his face.
Uh-oh.
He said, I had searing pains in my eyes and I couldn't open them. I thought I was blind and I could feel the blood running down my face and dripping off my clothes.
Holy.
Willie came over and said, fucking, oh my God, and, helped him try to wash the glass out and everything like that. He said that completely shocked Willie because he didn't want to, kill his son. Yeah. So he said after that, he never beat him up again. That was the last time he had any physical abuse from his father. He said if he got angry, he'd put his hand through a wall, a window, whatever was there when he blew up.
Something got punched.
Holy Jesus Christ. So, yeah, there's a newspaper article where they say Joe Pepitone loved his father, and his father loved him back. Willie Pepitone was more than a fighter. The way Joe saw him, Willie was the toughest guy in South Brooklyn, no question. The problem was Willie had a temper. He was always beating the hell out of Joe, really banging him around. He'd always apologize, but then he'd go and do it again until one time Willie told him, you're not playing ball anymore. Joe said, I hate you. Willie picked up an ashtray and fired it at him, and that's what they talk about in the news. This is all in the newspaper.
Wow.
So there was that. He said that, quote, this is what Joe said, he couldn't stop yelling at me any more than he could stop beating me all those years. I knew he didn't mean it, that all he wanted was for me to do well, but the yelling really got to me because it stuck with me longer than a punch. The words crouching in my head and repeating themselves, the things he called me.
Yikes.
So in high school, he's playing. So he's playing high school ball and he's playing for the Nathan's hot dog people. Right. As a child, they're all players in their 20s. A lot of them are minor leaguers, and he's a junior in high school. Then in his senior year, this you'd never see this coming, and neither did Joe. March 1958. Here he's in the hallway at school by his locker. Senior year. He's a big prospect. Dozen scouts at every game. All of this type of thing. He gets shot in school.
Like with a gun?
With a gun. He gets shot in school. The newspaper said a 17-year-old high school junior was accidentally shot and seriously wounded today at Manual Training High School classroom. The wounded youth, Joseph Pepitone, was taken to Methodist Hospital with a bullet wound in his groin.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Joe was the captain of the Brooklyn School's basketball team and an outstanding baseball player. So he's just a good athlete. Police said Pepitone was shot accidentally by a classmate, George Odell, 16. How much do you think that fucking father was like, you Irish bastard, I'm going to kill you? It was not learned immediately why Odell was carrying the gun. The shooting marred an otherwise quiet day in these turbulent city schools where the recent flare-up of teenage violence resulted in the opening of 2 special emergency schools for troublemakers.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, high school 9 captain shot in class accidents. Another one here. They said that he's shot with a 38, by the way.
That kid's bringing a 38 to school.
A 38 shot in the lower left chest and came out his back, they said after that. George Odell here ran from the 3rd floor classroom to the street after the shooting. Then, hysterical and overcome, he returned to the school and told authorities about the shooting. He said he found the gun in a lot a couple of months ago, and he's just been carrying it around.
Kid, you do not pick up a gun that's on the ground in public.
Especially in Brooklyn.
Don't put your fingerprints on that. Are you out of your mind?
Know how many people that's probably murdered?
Yeah, that is certainly an instrument of disappearance. I promise you.
A lot of people would drop the gun after they shot somebody. That was how they would do it.
Don't touch that, for Christ's sake. You're going to prison.
Holy shit. They said as he's being carried out of the school on a stretcher to the ambulance, Pepitone said to the cops, quote, don't be hard on George. He didn't mean to do anything. It's cool.
You've been shot, kid.
I've been beaten worse by my father. It's really okay.
This isn't so bad.
They said the two boys were in a business machines class with 16 other kids at the time of the shooting. Here is a picture, by the way, of
boy.
Pepitone on the stretcher with a cop over him.
Looking up at him, going, don't
Looks
worry
just
about
like
it.
Don Knotts, that cop, by the way.
It looks like he's got a black eye. Did you run across Willie?
I think maybe he didn't like the way he picked Joe up on the stretcher. Willie came over and beat the shit out of him.
Just shoot my kid.
You shooting my kid now, pal? No, I'm trying to save his life.
Somebody else did this.
Oh, man. Now, this is 2 days after his father had a heart attack and was in the hospital.
Oh, boy. This is going to give him another.
So that's the problem. He said 2 days later, I was in another hospital on the critical list. There was a lot of trouble at the high school. He goes into that. He said, on this day, when school ended, I went to my locker to get my jacket and go home. A guy I knew named Odell was standing by the lockers with a group of people. All of a sudden, he came over to me and said, in a put-on gangster voice, stick 'em up. Well, yeah, stick 'em up, see?
Pulled the trigger?
He said, I looked down and there was a gun in his hand, a .38, its muzzle inches from my belly. Hey, I said, staring into the cylinder and seeing bullets in them.
Yeah.
That thing's loaded. What the fuck?
What are you doing?
Bang, it went off, the sound echoing through the corridor. I didn't even know I was shot. I didn't feel a thing. I just stood there looking down and saw the hole in my shirt near the lower edge of my rib cage. I picked up my shirt and there was a hole in my skin, circled by what looked like a bruise, but there was no blood. I reached my hand behind me and felt my back sliding over the flesh in search of a hole. Then I felt it, my fingers meeting the slippery wetness all around the aperture. I looked at my hand and it was smeared with blood. I fell to my knees, still not feeling pain, only a queasiness in my stomach like I was going to throw up.
Yep.
Just then, a woman teacher ran up behind me and tugged the back of my collar. All right, you, she said sternly. Give me those firecrackers. He's bleeding to death.
I'm shot, ma'am.
Oh, man. Odell had run off crying, but one of the other guys said, he's been shot. Oh, my God, the woman said, seeing the hole in my shirt. Lie down. You better lie down.
Well, this is going to get worse.
Oh, man. I was on my knees in shock, but I didn't think lying down in this corridor was going to do a whole lot of good for a gunshot wound. Mm-hmm. Then the teacher said, no, we've got to get you to the nurse. Can you walk?
The nurse.
The nurse. With help, I made it down to the nurse's office. She took one look at me, helped me lie on the table with the long sheet of white paper covering it, and called for an ambulance. That should have been done a while ago, probably.
Yeah. Can you fix this? No!
No, obviously not.
Does he have a headache? Does he have a stomachache? I can't fix
I have
it.
aspirin here.
I have aspirin and Pepto-Bismol.
I have some gauze, not even a lot, like a little bit. Like if a kid cuts their finger in shop class, as long as it's not too deep, I can maybe get it back. But
a kid just left with the last ace bandage. We're fucked.
That's it. We're fucked, dude. We got nothing. Jesus Christ. She placed her hand on my forehead and asked, how do you feel? I told her, I don't feel any pain. And the minute I said it, I remembered something I'd heard one of my aunts say when a member of the family was very sick. If you don't feel no pain, that's when it's bad. I tell you, that's when it's very bad. And that's when I got very scared.
Yeah.
A few minutes later, there was a priest at my side with a purple stole draped around his neck.
Perfect.
He had come to administer last rites.
Last rites at school. Oh, my God.
Are you sorry for all your sins of your past life, my son? That's what he said. I'm sorry, I said, panicking and beginning my confession. Quote, Father, I didn't go to the store for my mother like I told her I would. Father, I played with myself. Then I broke it off. Wondering out loud, what if I don't get it all out in time, Father? What if I don't tell you everything right now?
Father, I left a naked girl on a fire escape.
Father, I thought a bush would give me diseases. She's soaking wet. And the kid's mother, I lied to this one. I shot fireworks at another kid. This is awesome. What if I don't get it all out, Father? Yeah, set people on fire. The priest reassured me and finished giving me last rites. Now I was really afraid, and I lay there thinking all kinds of weird things. I remember having heard my mother and another woman in my family say all Italians seem to then, that just before you die, you see the face of Christ. I put my hand over my eyes. He didn't want to see Christ. I don't want to see Christ. I'm not dying. Get out of here, Jesus. Go.
I ain't looking. You can't get me.
Can't get me. Ha ha. Got my fingers over my eyes. The ambulance took me to Methodist Hospital, and they operated to close up everything and the bullet had torn inside of me. I was in surgery for 9 hours.
Wow.
I'd been lucky, the doctor told me afterward. The bullet had struck a rib and careened out my lower back.
Fantastic. Missed everything.
He said, missing 3 vital organs by inches. I was on the critical list for 6 days and in the hospital for 12.
Shit.
That's fucking wild. He said it was so stupid because he said this kid he found this rusty gun down by the docks and he'd just been carrying it around with him because he thought it was cool.
And it was loaded, man.
Yeah, it was loaded. That's crazy. So he said that after a few days, this was a few days after the heart attack, by the way. Then on Good Friday, a few days later, his father dies.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, Willie's dead. He said his father had never been sick a day, but he fell down with a heart attack.
Give him 3 days. He might come right back.
Who knows? He might beat the shit out of the doctor. How dare you try to stitch up my heart?
Yeah.
He said at one point, he said he was so sad because he said, I wished he'd die. I really wished he'd die. And then he actually did die, and he felt bad because, he said he would never forgive himself, and he'd be sick with guilt. He said, this is terrible. So that's how
the guy
goes.
was so high-strung. He's beating the
shit out of everybody.
He doesn't know how to deal with stress or anger. Of course he's going to explode.
Just rage. Everything is rage. I don't know how your heart could stand that after a while.
At all.
No. So right after this, too, it is there's an article, 7 arraigned in school shooting. So
Jesus.
George Odell, who accidentally shot Joseph Pepitone, told police he found the revolver in a lot. But on subsequent questioning, he revealed that the weapon was lent to him by Owen Cunningham. Another Brooklyn kid, another student at the high school here. After further investigation, the cops brought in other people here. They bring in Michael Levins, who's 22 and a semi-pro baseball player, Vincent Leone, who's 18 years old, Joey Palladino, 19 here, John Morris, 19, Alfonso Guadino, 17, and Henry Paulus, 16. And they said that Levin said he bought the Colt in Albany, Georgia last year and sold it to Leone for $25 in December. So he didn't find it. He didn't borrow it. He bought it from a guy last December. Leone said that he lent the gun to the others at one time or another. While being questioned, he flared up and punched and kicked Detective Leo Roustow, resulting in an additional charge of felonious assault. This is the best neighborhood ever. What do you say? You say it's not allowed? Punch you, you son of a bitch. This is a child that did this. Leone is 18 years old, for Christ's sake. He's punching a detective while being questioned because a kid got shot. Odell was held in $10,000 each on felonious assault and gun charges. Bond was fixed for Levins and the 5 others on the weapons count. Holy shit, that's amazing. Pepitone, shot in the chest, was described in fair condition. And so that is fucking amazing and goddamn hilarious, I would say here. There's by the way, an article right below this that's pretty crazy. The headline is, Boy 11 tells how he lured 2 children to river and drowned them.
Well, I'm glad they got him. Jesus Christ, what?
George Jones. This is crazy. Because of petty grudges, an 11-year-old 5th grader twice lured smaller children, a girl 4 and a boy 7, onto West Side piers and then pushed them to their deaths in the Hudson River. He's a fucking serial killer at 11 years old.
11-year-old George Jones then goes on to play some of the greatest country music of all time.
And then that's what he gets because he goes to jail at such a young age.
Yeah.
He had a lot of life experience. He had a lot to sing about. He said that he confessed. Nonchalantly, he explained his grudges. The girl had told tales about him to his mother, and the boy had failed to pay him a promised dime.
A dime? Killed 2 of them.
Killed a 7-year-old over a dime.
Wow.
Wow. The confessed double killer, George Jones, a stocky, swaggering little character who enjoyed reenacting one of the death scenes, was booked for juvenile delinquency homicide in children's court and was remanded to youth house in the Bronx pending further hearing. Wow. Imagine.
I want to know how long he stayed and what he did after that.
No shit, man. That's
what a bad
I
kid.
assume killed more people. He was like, then I killed this child. Let me show you how I did it. It was awesome.
If he did it over a dime, he'd do way worse.
He didn't even feel bad.
No.
He said he was just nonchalant. He talks about Joe in his book. We'll get back to baseball here. He said the bullet wound caused 10 of the scouts to drop off. Only the Phillies, Dodgers, and Yankees were still interested in me. When the bidding got up to $25,000, the Phillies withdrew. And although I'd grown up only a little over a mile away from Ebbets Field and had gone to a lot of Dodger games before they moved to the West Coast, I'd always been a Yankee fan, as That's just kind of normal. My father had been a Yankee fan, and my Uncle Louie, who started me playing ball, was a Yankee fan. If I hadn't picked them, Louie would have given me a shot in the head. So even his career ramifications are subject to a punch in the head from a family member.
Which one you like? You know it's going to happen.
Oh, God. The Yankees put me through a physical examination. I was judged fit, and on August 3rd, 1958, I signed with them for a $25,000 bonus, which was about like $250,000 now.
You got it.
Which back then was huge money.
Right.
I mean, the top players in the game then, like your Mickey Mantle or your Willie Mays, made $100,000 a year back then, and that was equal to about $1 million now, which still isn't a lot for a ball
getting
player.
a quarter of that as a bonus.
It's it's just huge money. That's his dad. That's fucking almost 4 years of his dad working.
Right.
That's a lot. So he said, I'm sure that in the years since then, the Yankees have wished they'd examined my head and been able to see the terrifying guilt, the compulsive rebellion against authority, and the need to be loved that led me down so many bizarre and painful tracks. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, at least he gets it.
So he said, when I signed with the Yankees, I was told I wouldn't play until after the 1958 season at the Florida Instructional School. I was disappointed. But about 10 days later, I got a call from the front office saying the Yankees' Class D farm team in Auburn, New York, needed an outfielder for the last few weeks of the season. Would I like to be that outfielder?
Sure.
It was like asking a dog with weak kidneys if he'd like a tree.
Nice job, Joey.
He said, I went right out and bought myself a brand new Thunderbird in my mother's name, of course, because I wouldn't be 18 until October and didn't even have a driver's license.
A 58 Thunderbird?
Yeah, brand new, no
Great
driver's
car.
license.
Hell yeah.
Oh, it's fucking beautiful. This
So
is
cool.
awesome. He said, I talked her into it, and she went along with me after all I'd been through. Like, come on, Ma, I get punched in the head all the time. Finally, something decent happens to me. She was probably tired of rubbing my back to help me get to sleep. I also bought several $250 silk suits, sleek, very tightly cut like the younger, sharper racket guys wore then. That's expensive for a suit back then.
Yeah.
That's like a $3,000 suit now. I never gave a thought to the fact that I'd spent some $5,000 in one day. It's a lot.
That's a good day.
He said, hell, as far as I could tell, I was rich. Yeah. You're not yet, Joe. He said, I rubbed Neat's foot oil on my gloves, packed my bags, and the next day I was off to join the Auburn Club of the New York, Pennsylvania League. Joe Pepitone, age 17, from the Park Slope section of Brooklyn, property of the New York Yankees, perennial world champions, sitting tall behind the wheel of a sparkling new T-Bird, was on his way. He's doing fucking great.
There you go.
So August 13th, 1958, Pepitone agreed to play he's going there for Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
There he sees 16 games and bats .321.
Hell yeah.
Not bad. By the way, the $25,000 in 1958 is equal to $229,290.49.
Unreal.
And back then, that was even more than that is now. After the Auburn season, I went home until the instructional school began. Then I drove off to St. Petersburg. On the way, I kept passing these boat dealers.
Oh, no. You can't pull a boat with a fucking Thunderbird.
I began slowing down when I saw one coming up so I could look at the neat-looking speedboats. I started imagining myself behind the wheel of one. He's 17. He needs speedboats and fucking Thunderbirds. This is fucking amazing. I started imagining myself skiing behind one.
You can't pull one with a Thunderbird.
Well, I stopped at the next dealer and bought one.
And then what?
He said, hell, I was on my way to Florida, which has water around most of it.
Yeah, that's true.
All of it, except for the
part.
dealer attached a trailer hitch to my T-Bird, and I told him to just stow the water skis, life preserver, and the rest of the gear I'd bought just in the boat. Just throw it on in there.
Throw it in the boat. It won't blow out or anything.
This is awesome. Needless to say, when I pulled up to the Yankees headquarters, management didn't waste a great deal of time informing me that they've never had a ball player, much less a rookie, with all of 16 games experience, report to them towing a boat.
With a Thunderbird.
He said he had a German Shepherd standing on the bow when he pulled in, too. Like he had his dog there.
He put the dog in the boat.
Yeah, come on. He's got skis. He said they gave me 24 hours to sell my virgin craft, but I didn't understand why they had to get so excited about it.
They didn't even like it.
You got to sell. I'm sure he lost a shitload of money on the boat, too. He had to sell it then. You can't just bring it back.
Yeah.
Oh, man. The New York Daily News was praising him as an outstanding Brooklyn baseball prospect.
Yeah.
He's getting all sorts of stuff. His manager up in Auburn said, I'm delighted with young Pepitone. He came here with no pro experience. We signed him right out of Brooklyn's Manual High School, but the boy loves to play ball and has shown surprising power. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He said about this whole thing, quote, I never thought about anything. I was a stickball player, and my brother's team needed an outfielder. I went there and hit 3 home runs in one game on a high school field, and I was 14 years old. He talked about the scout. He said, I was just having fun. Baseball allowed me to get away from my strict father. My friends partied their asses off, and I couldn't do anything. And when my father died at 39 years old, I was free. My mother couldn't hold me back. Nobody could. I got a $25,000 bonus when I signed with the Yankees, and I almost spent the whole bonus on my way down to spring training, buying a car and a boat, bought a dog and put it in the boat, and he was barking all the way down to spring training.
He just got the dog.
He bought it and was like, there you go, stay in that boat. And he's just collecting things and putting them in the boat. Water skis and stuff, got that, throw that in the boat.
Treating it like a motorhome.
Pick up a chick, throw her in the boat. You're going to have to ride in the boat. I'm sorry. Everything goes in the boat.
Hi, I'm going to Florida, and I need a wife. Get in.
Jesus Christ. So Joe DiMaggio was working down there for the Yankees that year. That's a legend, and especially if you're Italian. It's like he's fucking like Italian God, like literally. Right. You don't have any idea, like, I can't even tell it. Like bigger than Frank Sinatra, bigger than any of them. It's fucking Joe. They had songs about him.
And at 58, he wasn't playing for the Yankees?
He retired in 53.
He's already done, huh?
He's already done. Yeah. Well, wow. Christ, he started his rookie year was 37, I think.
Wow.
And he went to World War II for 3 years also in between there. So he was about done. Joe was also, he wasn't going to look bad. That was his thing. If he couldn't play center field and look graceful anymore, he wasn't playing anymore.
When was he banging Monroe?
After that. After he retired, he started fucking her and got married to her. So DiMaggio says about Pepitone, quote, Joe DiMaggio, swear to God, he asked, this is what DiMaggio asked Pepitone. Quote, Joe DiMaggio, I swear to God, he asked me, are you here to play ball or for a vacation? A little of both, I told him.
I got a boat.
Next day, everything was gone. They took everything back. And that's the way it was, even when I made it to the majors. It was fun, and my father wasn't around to knock the shit out of me, so I did what I wanted to. It was all in front of me, man. Yeah. Okay, we'll go round this out with a couple of lady stories here.
Oh, boy.
There's a lady, apparently, this lady named Carmen, that it's weird. She would, like, dance with guys. You buy tickets, and then you dance with this broad.
What?
Yeah, I don't know if she was like a prostitute or what her deal was, but I'm not sure. But he said, I just sat there watching Carmen rub against that old guy on the dance floor. They danced for almost an hour. I kept looking at the clock, waiting. Finally, she went and sat at a table, but the guy sat with her. Shit, I thought, staring at them, waiting for him to leave. Then I just stood up and walked over to her. Carmen, you want to dance? I got more tickets. I held them out to her. Semi-pleading, I guess. Later, she said. I can't stay too late, I said. Well, I'll see you later, she said, not even looking up at me. When are you going to take me? I got to be home before 12, he says. She says, go back to your table.
What is this?
He said, hey, what's the matter? You don't like me anymore?
Yeah.
She said, go back to your table. So he said, you said you were going to take me home and teach. And he starts trailing off. The guy then jumped up and said, look, kid, get your ass away from here. But she said, he said, the guy stood up and pushed me. I said, get the hell out of here. 2 bouncers hustled over, and one of them grabbed my arm. The next thing I knew, my 7 friends came running over and pushed the bouncers off me. What a fight. Chairs over, tables over, people yelling, girls screaming. They wrapped us around a little bit, and we ran toward the door there. So apparently after all of this, he ended up back in the club. They didn't like kick everybody out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this like a strip club? What is this?
I don't know what the deal is. He's getting baseball tickets and paying with baseball tickets too with these girls. So he said he got some more tickets, but then but Carmen was then dancing with somebody else. Anyway, so the whole fight happens. He says, when we got to the door, they didn't even bother to chase us. I turned around and yelled to Carmen, you fucking cunt.
You lied.
He said that was one of the biggest things you could do then. Tell a girl she was a fucking cunt. It still is, Joe.
It's one of the biggest things you could do.
That's one of the biggest things you could do. All the way home on the subway, I was bragging to my friends. You hear me call her a fucking cunt? Right to her face. Right to her face.
Did you see it?
Yeah, Joe, you really told her off, they said. He said, growing up in Brooklyn was a lot like an East Side comedy. All the guys were crazy, came on like big shots. I remember when the oldest guy in our gang got a car. All we did for weeks was drive around and yell at girls. When we'd see a girl walking along, the big thing was to pull up next to her, stop and say, hey, you, get over here.
The big thing.
Then if they paused and came toward you, can I get into your pants or what? Classy.
That was the big thing to do.
It's the big thing to do. And then you call them a fucking cunt if they don't.
If they say no, you say, what are you, a cunt?
What are you, cunt? You a nice girl, you a cunt. You pull a Travolta line. Saturday Night Fever. He said, of course, 98.2% of the girls would just walk away or say, get away from me, you fucking pigs. Yeah. But I'll never forget this one chick. There were 6 of us in the car. Can I get into your pants or what? The chick put her hand on her hip and said, okay, how many of you do I have to take on?
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus Christ. The guy who was driving threw the car in gear and shot away. Jesus Christ, he said, there must be something wrong with her. She knew how to get rid of him. That's what it was. She figured it out.
Yeah, it's either run away from us or you just stand there and go, let's all fuck. And then every one of them are going to be like, not that
Let's
one,
go.
Jesus.
Let's go. Dicks out, everybody. They're all going to drive away.
Pull them out, boys.
Get them out. Whip them out. Here is, we'll end on this here, a prank that he pulled with some of his teammates here. So he said that a friend of his there had a hopped up Chevy that he liked to keep finely tuned, and we hung around a local speed shop for a while. We got to know the owner real well and liked to kid around with him. Then Rich came up with this brilliant idea one day. He got 2 masks. See where this is going?
Oh, my God.
2 toy pistols that looked like the real thing, and decided we would pull a fake holdup of the speed shop just for laughs. The owner would get a kick out of it.
What is...
Why are you doing this?
I don't understand.
Let's pretend to do armed robbery. Yeah, armed robbery is the gag. Isn't that fun?
Put him up. All right, well,
I mean,
just
Jesus.
kidding.
He got shot like that a year and a half ago. You'd think he'd be like, I don't know, that'll make people uncomfortable. I didn't like having a gun pointed at me.
Just kidding is not a gag.
No, he said, we walked in, masks on, guns out, and said, this is a holdup. Turn around and lean against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
The trouble started.
Yeah. When they got guns, too.
No. When a passerby looked in the window
shit.
and ran in the street and flagged down a police car that happened to be driving by.
Yeah.
2 cops ran in with drawn guns, followed within seconds by the occupants of 2 other squad cars.
Oh, Christ.
They snapped handcuffs on us, pushed us up against the wall. We yanked off our masks and said, wait a minute, we can explain. This is all a joke.
It's not real.
Yeah, that's not, cops don't want to hear that shit.
No, I didn't mean it is not. That's not an excuse.
Well, he said the cops didn't think so. Even after the shop owner identified us, they went, well, you still can't pretend to armed rob. You're going to jail. He said we had to call Steve Sochuk, who was forced to come down and verify that we were players in the Yankee organization. Otherwise, we would have gone to jail.
Wow.
Which is so, they're Yankees, and they'd let them go back then.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Unbelievable.
Shochak just shook his head and said, shook his head like he didn't know what to do with us. I guess it was a good thing that we had shown some ability on the ball field. Mm-hmm. And he did. With the Fargo-Moorhead Twins in the Class C Northern League in 1959, he had 123 games, 283 batting average, 35 doubles, 12 triples, 14 homers, 87 ribbies. It's a very good year. And that jumped him up to Class A ball the next year, which is the top one there. This is before single, double, triple A here. And the Binghamton Triplets of the Eastern League. So he ends up, we should leave off there because there's a whole bunch of weird sex stuff coming up.
Boy. Great.
And mob guys offering to kill Moose Scourin to get him a starting job.
Terrific.
So there's a lot going on in the next edition here. Joe Pepitone, as you can tell, this will be a multi-parter. Probably be 3 parts, I would imagine. This will be because how do you skip over any of that stuff that we just talked about?
It's all great.
How do I go through a book and go, Willie came down and beat up a baseball team and caused a riot in the stands? Well, I'll skip over that. That's not related to baseball.
He called it, I guess, a stripper. I don't know. Maybe she was just one of those piano ladies. Called her a cunt right to her face.
A cunt, yeah, for not dancing with him. Did you hear me call her a cunt right to her face?
Then he's proud of it.
There's some real weird stuff coming up, including some very illegal things as well coming up in the future here. So we'll talk about all that and more on the next episode here, starting out with working out with the Yankees. So next episode, we'll start out with actually Casey Stengel and Mickey Mantle and those guys. And it's going to be some fun stuff, and the pranks and everything get even crazier from there. So we'll check all that out and more next week. But while you're listening, you should definitely give us a review on whatever app you're listening on. Doesn't matter what app it is. They can all take reviews and say something nice. It helps drive us up the charts and get us noticed by people when they're looking for shows. So thank you for doing that. Also, certainly follow us on social media. We're at Crime and Sports on everything, so check that out. You definitely also want to go to shutupandgivememurder.com.
Here we go.
Where we will talk about all sorts of stuff there. Shut Up and Give Me. You'll talk about, you can see all of our stuff on there. You can see all of our live shows. And you can get tickets, most importantly, to our live shows. The tickets here for all the live shows, next regular live show is May 31st in Durham, North Carolina. The next night's Nashville, but that's sold out. Then we have the virtual live show April 20th. It's the 20th.
420.
420. Virtual live show, just like a regular live show, but you're in your living room. We're smoking weed. We're telling a crazy story. We're going to have costumes on. I'm going to scare the shit out of Jimmie with some weird bongs and stuff.
Available for 2 weeks.
2 weeks after the 20th as well. You can buy it, or if you buy it before that, you can watch it 100 times, do whatever you want with it. I don't care. Shove it up your ass for all we care. The whole computer. We don't give a shit. The whole iPad. Get her right up there. As long as you buy it first, because I feel like you're not going to be able to buy things for a while after that. So check all that out. Hang out with us. You definitely want Patreon. You want Patreon. It's the best $5 in podcasting, I swear here. Anybody $5 a month or above, you get hundreds of back episodes immediately that you've never heard before, bonus stuff that's never been public, and then after that, you're going to get new episodes, two new episodes every other week, one Crime and Sports, one Small Town Murder. This week is no different. This week, what you're going to get for Crime and Sports, we're going to talk about the whole Ohtani gambling disaster here, this debacle.
It's topical.
I've never seen an investigation just be like, all concluded, all that guy's fault. Moving on so fast, and we got to get it wrapped up before opening day. Oh, okay,
we got it.
All the facts
We're lucky.
will come. Wow, isn't that what a lucky coincidence? I think that might be some bullshit. And then other gambling incidents too that aren't Pete Rose. We'll talk about Alex Karras in the Alex Karras is the guy who Mongo.
Oh.
That's Mongo and the guy that adopted Webster.
He was wrestling, or he was gambling?
He was a football player, and he had some. Yeah, he got banned from the league for a year.
Yeah, he's Webster's dad.
Yep, and Paul Hornig too. Same thing happened to him in the same year. We'll talk about that. Then for Small Town Murder, we're going to talk about some serious conspiracy theory rabbit hole shit. Boy. Let's talk about some real far-fetched shit that people have wrote whole books about. Okay. Was Charles Manson in the CIA, or at least a CIA asset that was working to whatever the hippie movement? Was that it? Was that what it was? And also see other CIA related murder things we'll talk about there. We'll go way down the rabbit hole and have lots of fun with that.
Right.
So Patreon.com/crime and sports is where you get all of that. And you get a shout out. When does that shout out happen?
Oh, right now.
Right fucking now, Jimmie, hit me with him like I've just pissed Willie off, and he's seeking revenge like I've pissed his son off. Hit me with him right now.
This week's executive producers are Jordan Bennett, Haley Walls, Thomas Smith. Happy birthday, Thomas.
Happy birthday.
Sherry Blythen. Kyle Norwig got himself a mortgage. Good for you.
Hey, good
and
for
Denali York, thank you all so much for everything you do for us.
Thank you.
You
guys
are
the
terrific.
Best.
Other producers this week are Sophie Content.
Be careful, Jimmie. Careful with that one.
She said it's content, but
this is one of our patrons, Jimmie. Let's keep it.
Thank you.
Keep
Sophie.
it light.
You're terrific. Janice Hill, Rhea Sparks, Tuesday Mize, Jason Munch, Nick Jameson, Mitch Callerby, Kate Clark, Blake Lehman, Laura Rhodes, Terry with no last name, Helena K, Joe Devine, Denise Briceford, Michaela Holtzclaw, Genosaurus XO, Ray Honor, Shannon Hall, Megan O'Neill, Maxine with no last name, Adam Angeloff, I guess maybe, Calvin Maddox, David Hines, her Sophship. Okay, I believe her name is Sophie. All right.
Okay.
D. Connor, Catherine Domerod. Corey Rizzo has 2 different ones. Thank you, Corey. Darwin Harder, Uncle Kenny, Danik Chatelane, Michelle McCorkle, Emily with no last name, Michelle Fournier, Jasmine Williams, Lance Morenschlager, Kelsey Brown, Clara Bella, Christine Reynolds, Mary and Ann, Anthony Schock, I believe, Annie, oh boy, what is this? Annie Vogel, Paul Jeremiah Hayes, Lucy Davies, Julie Lindsay, Ken Allen, Hayden Thorne, Angela Neath, I think, Rakita Parker, Mail Lady Julie, Jenny, fuck. All right, it's
not
Jenny.
Julie.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Mail Lady.
Julie.
Rick
Sorry,
Jordan, John Shea, Edgar Palma, Lloyd with no last name, Javier with no last name, Julia Foodman, Casey Wiederholt, Rebecca Banks Gilbert, Melina Peters, Mole Children Charities LLC. Mole children. Are there mole children?
Do they
need
pulling
help?
children from the ground?
I don't know.
Are their eyes not open all the way?
They may be sick. They have charities. Jonathan Emerson, John Britton, Sarah Noah, Tony the Guitar Geek, Art Vandalay, Bro Mahaj, what? Missy Grenolds. Grenolds? Is that a real last name? Is it? Is it Reynolds and I fucked that up? It's possible.
Maybe. You ever hear Pietragallo before? Could be a name. You don't know.
Andy Tees, Kathy with no last name, Mackenzie with no last name, Stacy Arguello, Deke or Dyke or Dick. I'm not sure. One of the
Let's
three.
Go Deke.
Probably. Marcy Barger, Aaron Adkins, Stephanie Kite, Puccino, Bellini, Ailey with no last name, Allie, it's probably Allie, Woo Beat, Prinny Miller, Markeith. No, it's Markeith. That's a cool name.
Markeith, I've heard.
Yeah. I think there's a murderer named Markeith.
There's an offensive lineman named Markeith, too.
Yeah. There's a Markeith there's a investigation, discovery, interrogation where his fucking eyes hanging out of his face because they tackled him.
Yes.
That guy's name's Markeith.
Yes.
Amy Reeves, Bocephus, Ray. I hope it's not that Markeith. Cheyenne with no last name. Irvin, Joseph.
Thanks, bro. Hope your eye's better.
I don't know. Maybe you should have kept that money to make that eye better.
Yeah.
Unless you've got so much money and so many eyes. Irvin Joseph Bergeron. Sonia Montgomery. Kyla Wilson. Paul Minotti. Aaliyah Taylor. Keith with no last name. Catherine Ramirez. Maja Berlin. Lulu Dropo. Abby Van Roy. Chuck Gilbraith. Cameron Greenwade. Greenwald, Joe Jenks, I don't know, Brad Grensinger, Blazin' Bob, Mandy with no last name, John LaBaff, Cody Crompton, Caroline Bennett, Suzanne Kendall, Derek Baker, Heather Archer, Matthew Sharp, Mike Mix, Reggie W. Night Horse, Miranda Levanides, Jeff Martin, Bill Jerem, Lorraine Rain. Yep, that's true. Nick Aram, Rachel with no last name, Wade Carpenter, Genevieve Rittenhouse, Kara Avent, Jillian Smith, Tammy Van Oppen, Amy Wetzel, Anna Maria, Abigail Edgar, Joseph Tamburro, Heather with no last name, Dylan Clary, Kristen Ellen. Shit, is that her first name? All right, that might be 2 first names. I'm not sure. Kevin Carroll, Billy Sale. Could be. Maybe her last name's Ellen even. Laura Barton, Kim Casto, Morgan W. Complexity Crops. All right, Conkle City.
Oh.
Morgan with no last name. Jamie Tafoya, like the lady from ESPN, is it?
There you go. Michelle.
Michelle, I hope that's Michelle's family. Zach Meineke. He's got oil change money.
Muffler money.
Yolanda with no last name. Matthew with no last name. Graciano Johnson. Jake with no last name. Molly Doster. Madison Greco. Sandra Dugan. Titty Laws. Justin Bottles. Lisa B. Julie Rotondo. Darren Kuhn. Amanda Gross. Eileen Warden. Lucas Legault. Josh Mills, Haley Krull, Orange 67 RS. I'll bet you that guy drives a Camaro. Jessica Scarpa, Cleo Wright, Letitia Hernandez, Thomas Whitcomb, Eric Westfall, Wade. Nope, that's Mady Davy, Wesley Ford, X23 Hester. I believe that's Devin's family. You guys, and all of our patrons, obviously, every last one of you, you're terrific. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. You wonderful, wonderful, crazy bastards. We appreciate the shit out of all that you do for bastards. And then we come and punch you. Thanks, you bastard. Pow.
Yeah.
The only people who might be bastards is if anybody complains that there was no actual arrests on this episode, because you've also heard of more crime than any 5 episodes put together so far.
Yeah.
So we had the most crime ever just because it went under the police radar. Who gives a shit? We found out about all of it. So, and there's plenty of dumb shit coming up and arrests and just funny stuff. Wait till you hear him when talking about losing his hair. It's hilarious.
I'm looking forward to it.
He's a fucking mess. And so are we. So thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And we will be back next week with part 2. Make sure to listen to Small Town Murder and Your Stupid Opinions, of course, because it's fucking hilarious. Yeah. Keep doing that. Keep coming back. Follow us on social media. The links are on the website there. Have fun. And live from the Crime and Sports Studios, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
If you like crime and sports, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
A few miles from the glass spires of Midtown Atlanta lies the South River Forest. In 2021 and 2022, the woods became a home to activists from all over the country who gathered to stop the nearby construction of a massive new police training facility, nicknamed Cop City.
At approximately 9 o'clock this morning, as law enforcement was moving through various sectors of the property, an individual, without warning, shot a Georgia State Patrol trooper.
This is We Came to the Forest, a story about resistance.
The abolitionist mission isn't done until every prison is empty and shut down.
Love and fellowship.
It was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life.
And the lengths we'll go to protect the things we hold closest to our hearts. Follow We Came to the Forest on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.